This conference will now be recorded.
All right, very sorry for the delay, but we are here at 5:09 on March 25th. We have all three members of the board present here in town hall. The first order of business is a quick one. So Martin Brunk is volunteering to be on the Renewable Energy Working Group. Roger's stepping down to make a spot. The appointment would be through June 30th, 2026.
You're making a motion? Or?
Yeah, I'll move that to appoint Martin Brunk. Any other discussion? We'll call a vote.
Yes.
And yes, so that's a unanimous approval.
I will submit my official resignation at the end of the meeting.
Yeah. So.
Look at the smile on his face.
One thing off his desk.
I actually, on the topic of renewable energy working group, I met with Peter. They're a little bit hung up on the landfill property, waiting on a detailed design from the firm that test, which is discouraging. But there's renewed interest in green communities. So he's going to renew the push for green communities, and also just wants to get a feeler, whether or not whatever happens up at the fire station, just to see what the feasibility is on solar there, without even major commitment. Just get a consult to see if it makes sense. That's where Peter's head is at least as far as renewable.
On the renewable, that's the contractor he was waiting for. Yeah, they're the ones that were most interested, right?
They got the RFP, but they were the only submission.
But they haven't come with the drawing.
It's just not it's not moving as quickly as Peter would like. And
Do you think, I guess my question is it a delay tactic because they're changing the run?
we don't, right? It's fairly early. We're not running late to the point where it's just a little discouraging.
Yeah.
How long is it? So he's kind of focusing his energy, I think, to some degree on other things to, to
Keep it going. Did he have anything to say about Buel doing anything?
I don't know where that's at. Other than that, there was nothing. He didn't tell me anything definitively one way or the other. I think we could chat with Adam.
Yeah.
Since he's here. Adam, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh. Can you hear us? Oh, that's my own
Yep.
concern.
I'm sorry. You there?
Hold on, Adam.
Hi.
Oh, that of course is an issue.
Huh?
I don't know if there's a speaker on here.
Yeah.
It's not coming out of the.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
If you can hear us.
I can call him on the phone. Give my phone number.
Do you want to call him on the big phone?
There he is.
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear us? We can't hear you because I think it's us though.
Yeah, I
We're
can
working
hear
on
you.
it. We may have to call you, Adam.
Can you call?
Sure. What? Oh, yeah. What number?
I know.
You
Technology.
can't hear me.
Can you call 413? 528?
He's like, oh, you mean
See here.
Yeah, I know. We're having some owl difficulty.
Tell him if he needs a tech person.
413-528-1443.
I like how you put that screen.
Extension 114. See how bad the feedback starts.
Will it be? Oh, it'll be horrible.
I don't know, we'll see.
Should we just switch gears and do owl?
Let's see what happens.
From what?
Are you there?
Roger, what if we just hook owl up to that?
I think you're muted.
Hold on. Can you hear us?
All right.
So far, no feedback, so let's go with it.
All right, we think we have you. So you sent along matching funding for the BEAD program, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I don't have that in front. I was actually on to hear about the seaplanes in Garfield, so
Oh, really?
I wasn't prepared for any Microsoft stuff. But yeah,
You know what?
uh,
I'm not really prepared either.
yeah,
But it sounds like maybe we'll take a look at BEAD round 2.
yeah, I don't believe it's been officially announced, but there should be a. They got, from my understanding, they got 5 applications this round, and it covers about 50% of the areas they want to cover. So there's most likely going to be another round trying to pick up the remaining.
Would those 5 applications, like, would Verizon be one application for all the communities they might have endorsed, or that might have endorsed them?
I don't know.
Okay.
They haven't released the applications, and if you guys didn't do a letter of support, then they wouldn't have been able to apply anyways.
All right, well, we'll keep in touch about that.
But yeah, I mean, we're definitely interested in finishing off the town, and we're working on a couple different possibilities to make that happen. There is a program. Yeah, there's an assistance program, Massachusetts Federal Grant Matching Funds Program.
Yeah, I have that, and I can forward it and keep everyone in the loop here about the link you sent.
Okay.
Quick question, Adam. We just heard, what was it, today?
It was a couple days. No, I think it was Friday. I think it was.
Recently, because we've talked a lot about Corshare and River Road. Have you thought at all about that house on the border of Tyringham? Because we heard from them for the first time that I'm aware of.
I believe he reached out to the town back in 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
He has reached out to us again. We're doing some surveying, trying to figure out what the cost would be to get up there.
Okay, so you're already on it.
Yeah, I mean, he was waiting to see if the town would do something, and then I guess he kind of said, well, it doesn't look like it, so I'm just going to bite the bullet. I said, well, oddly enough, there's these speed rounds, there may be an opportunity, so I don't know if he's going to wait. We're going to give him some estimates. I don't know if he'll wait or if he's going to go ahead and do it. Unfortunately, just the one house, so it doesn't, again, pay for us to run our current Alliance here at Pond.
Yeah.
But if he wants to subsidize that, we're more than happy to get it down there.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, so moving on to the annual town meeting warrant. Not a whole lot of changes from week to week.
So my first question is, do we have any updated numbers on the principal fee?
Not yet.
Okay, when can we expect those?
A
Right.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think we should talk, when I talked with the treasurer, when did we talk with her? Last budget cycle,
Yeah.
or half a year ago?
Yeah.
About her annual rate.
Yep.
She offered to set us up with other places, firms that might be willing to work with the town, and I think we might be
Other than
nearing
Unibank?
that point.
Yeah.
No, not Unibank,
Oh,
Treasurer
okay.
Services.
Treasures.
I don't want to jump the gun, but I have to get I was actually asking earlier for the contract, not the contact.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, it's kind of,
I read that fast.
I think, negligence at this point that we don't have minimum principal payments. And the OPEB trust is just not being. We could have trustees of our OPEB trust, but by default, the treasurer is the trustee, and I've inquired a little bit about the OPEB, and I just haven't heard back, and that's kind of been I think there's a little bit of a broken relationship because the treasurer feels like they've lost a bunch of money on Monterey in the last couple of years, mostly dealing with Harper's payroll stuff. And it results in maybe less good of service for the town. And at this point, not having principal pay down numbers in the last week of March is really
I
bad.
know, it's a problem.
And I don't even know if it's a banker question, but I know who's responsible at the end of the day. And that's why I'm trying to get the contract from the treasurer. It's actually, can be figured out by statute.
Do you think it's possible that Roger would get a better response?
I tried.
Roger's asked
Okay,
about,
Yeah,
Just
she
checking.
had to.
yeah, I haven't asked.
Yeah, she had to go to call one of her the banker.
Mhm.
So I asked a while back, and I think the email got lost, and then I asked again. So
how recently?
I asked, what's today, Tuesday? I asked yesterday.
Okay,
So, and then, but I talked to her last
But not for the first time.
last Wednesday. No, I sent her an email before that, and then I spoke with her last Wednesday.
I don't even know that we should need to be digging for this.
No,
Like, I
but
think
we
it's
need
something
to
that
have
should,
it at the
oh,
end
no,
of the day.
but I'm saying, I think it's something that we shouldn't
Fingertip.
have to ask for,
No, we shouldn't.
let alone chase down for.
I'm not
Yeah.
disputing that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
right now,
We need
the
to,
numbers.
no, I agree.
Right, like, so whether this means we're like, we have to look for services elsewhere or
Yeah.
not, we still
No,
need
I
the
shouldn't have
numbers,
even really brought that up,
Right.
but
I'm not disputing the potential,
it's
I'm just
frustrating.
saying we need the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that will dictate what we even think we wanna do with free cash, and we might have to, look at what our plan from last year and go from there.
is the library alone, is there a number already on the budget? Can't have both.
Just last year.
I just copied last year's.
Okay.
Whatever date is on there is from last year.
Okay.
So I just don't have there's not some numbers for the
And the way we
for one of the
worked it-
trucks.
Right, the way we worked it last year was that we knew what the total amount we wanted for the library was, and we did the required principal on the operating budget, and then the extra within the special article.
Yeah, coming up free cash. We did that for all.
All of them, yeah, but
Why
I
don't
just
you
wanted to.
Can't you use the same numbers this year?
We are mostly using the same numbers, but the required minimum payouts are
Not the same.
dictated by statute.
Right.
And it's actually, I don't think it's an incredibly hard formula, but it's just a little bit too complicated for what I understand, because then you have to also do the required interest, which fluctuates. But it's something about the useful life of a vehicle. So we can manipulate that by saying the useful life of this dump truck is 5 years or 6 years or 10 years. So, but
Playing with the books.
I think you can basically know that number as soon as payments are made the prior year. Because I don't know. All I know is we shouldn't have to chase the number down, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And it just feels like maybe there's, like I said, a broken relationship where someone feels underpaid, but then we're not getting the service we need.
Or she's
not
overextended,
really
or
working.
like, there's so many potentials, but the bottom line is we need the numbers.
Yeah.
And we can also make a decision as to whether when we don't get the service we need, we look elsewhere. I don't know how many other people are out there that.
I don't know, but
solid reputations.
last year she was willing to help us find somebody, because it was already headed, frankly,
Right.
it was already heading in this direction. And I forget, it was when we were negotiating the last contract
Yeah.
that she offered to help us find somebody else, and that was probably the writing on the wall.
David Eisenthal, can he help you get those numbers?
It's possible. Anyway,
I have his cell phone. I get something.
It's
I have
possible,
one
but actually, I think they really need to come from the treasurer. Okay, so we're talking town meeting warrant. I think I left the Garfield stuff on there, but I believe that's gonna be in the operating budget. I left paying the retiree group health and life insurance benefit on there, but I think that's gonna be coming out of the operating budget.
Okay. And do we still know do we know what the number for that is either?
For which one?
Yeah, retiree health and life.
Re- re-
What's it?
retiree health health insurance is in there.
It's in there. How much is it?
23,272.
23, okay. And it's in the regular.
And that's based on the first 6 months we know, and the second 6 months we don't know, but Roger made an estimate.
Right, I remember him talking about that, I just didn't remember the number. Okay, police cruiser, do we have an updated figure?
The figure that's in there is the updated figure.
69K?
69. Well, this.
Oh wait,
This,
that one right there.
yeah, this was
Okay. I was looking at the warrant, not at
yeah.
the budget. Sorry.
Brian sent me the quote,
The quote,
that he previously got when we were talking about using ARPA monies, and that was
Okay.
the dollar value on the quote, 69,384.90.
All right, okay.
Doesn't include the great trade-in value of it.
What's the
What's he looking to buy? Is it another Ford?
I honestly I can't. I
Because
can't
he
remember what he
talked
said.
about a Durango.
He talked about something else.
He talked about a Durango.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Can't remember what he said right now. I have it somewhere.
what about cultural council?
Cultural council, in what sense?
3,000.
3,000 for cultural council. I don't see a line for it.
Oh,
Hence, I was asking.
cultural. Oh, there it is. The cultural council. I can add that.
Should you just copy that from last year? What? If you had 3,000 last year.
We usually do 3,000.
Okay. So that's retiree life we moved, 3,000 for cultural council, OPEB 30K, police cruiser 69 change, turn record 75. And we don't know principal pay now.
Yeah,
and I have
I mean,
I have some bills there's some bills. I just
And we
have to
don't know
put
what
in
those
there.
numbers are. Okay.
Yeah.
And we
And-
actually do have flexibility on the debt because we'll take care of the minimums in the operating budget. So
Mhm.
if we want to put a little bit less towards the truck,
Okay.
I mean, that's if we're running out of free cash.
I was just gonna say, what's the total on the free cash for the items we currently have up there?
281,000.
So we really only have a 19 and change remaining, right?
Yep.
Wait, what's the
That's
total
what,
for free cash?
304?
304.
No.
So we really don't.
Well, this is a total running cash right now with a little bit more, and that's
Right,
what
so
we
we
have.
actually don't have any more to
Because you want to keep
apportion,
20 or
because
so
we
in
need to
reserve.
have at least some free cash available.
Yeah.
Is that not true?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
270.
I'll have to find those bills there.
One other possible area of flex is that I know when I talked to Sean a month or two ago about turnout gear, right off the bat, he was thinking with some of the changes going on, maybe the town waits, but it also expires in January. So some of it would be expired by some number of months,
Right.
by the 10-year standard.
Right.
But maybe, I don't know, in all these ongoing conversations,
Did something right.
it's like do half of it or something. Because with a new plan of staffing, it might require different.
Plus, if we're gearing up the staffing and doing some this year and some next year, it might make more sense to do that so that we'd have the opportunity to buy gear for the new staff.
So it might be a win-win,
Right.
rarely,
Ridiculous,
a
right.
rare win-win.
A rare win-win.
Where
Okay.
it might benefit to maybe cut that in half. And maybe that keeps our debt payments more stable. I might also be adding in a couple of transfers of money that's already in places. So for instance, when we bought the new highway department pickup truck with ARPA money, we left that money there, so we might transfer to, basically it's not gonna cost any of the free cash that we have currently certified. It would just be the free cash that's in that special article, moving it to historic district consultant.
I see what you're saying.
I gotta add those things in, but they won't really have an effect on the bottom line, so to speak,
Right.
this year anyway.
Okay. And we put Garfield onto the operational budget and the ambulance onto the operational budget. Okay.
So the Did we put the ambulance on operational budget?
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. That's on. Yeah, we moved it back over.
We did, okay.
I think, so there's a lot of things, I mean, OPEB should probably be in the operating budget, ambulance.
Cause did you move it out of the other number? Because the
believe
number
so.
I gave you was with it.
Oh, that's true.
Uh-huh.
Susan, when you do your spreadsheet, if we're gonna put that in a special warrant, we should take that number out of
Well, that's my point.
it.
Right. I mean, I don't, whichever way we choose to do it, I need to know.
So,
I think-
yeah,
sure
so-
that-
I think.
I think,
Two, it might be good if you do take it out, because we don't know what we're gonna do next year, so when we're comparing year over year.
If there's, actually, from my perspective, there may be a reason to move it again, because then there isn't a bigger jump next year, but
Yeah.
maybe we should just.
So
go ahead
I
and do
think-
it. I don't know.
this year we were confronted with about 4 items that we just do every year, and they're in the special articles, and they
it's
really
not
should be in
there.
the budget. But if
I
you do
agree.
them all, it's really an impact. And so I think Roger and I had a conversation a couple of months ago about we'd love to put the OPEB contribution in the operating budget because we want to put 30,000 in every year, no questions asked. But if you add Lake Garfield, ambulance, OPEB, and the retiree health and life,
It's a lot.
that's a 3 or 4% rate right there.
Alright.
So if you just
Compensation
lean it in,
is
if you,
that.
I think
That's the change, that's the
Yeah,
compensation, compensation,
I
that's
would
what
be
you have in
very
there. Okay, so the ambulance
small
isn't in
steps.
there. Okay.
I would keep Southern Berkshire.
Good.
I was looking at the wrong number when I. Number brain. They start to all like,
They'll look around.
it's so easy to look at the wrong column. Okay.
the next up is the Proposition 2.5 override question. And did you follow up with Don at all as you needed to?
I'm sorry, I was,
The 2.5 override?
I thought you were getting the wording from me.
I did.
Okay.
I
followed
forwarded
up-
it to you.
Right,
And then I just, if you had any
not.
questions, I wanted you to be able to
look at it directly.
look at it. So,
What I did do was Roger and I had a conversation and we basically, and I don't know if we need to talk about this with the fire committee as well, but came up with an overall number of 1.1 for the override, which would cover basically whatever plan we came up with through, I'm gonna say 2030. I don't know, like, it's so hard to know because I feel like the whole concept now is to bridge this next year to be able to flesh out a plan that's more sustainable, and we don't really know how we're gonna end up scaling up.
Yeah, but I,
Like, the
Justin,
meeting
we,
that just came
we
out.
have not committed to anything in 27 because we've got emphasis is partnership. You know, we need someone that, we need to do something between these local townships, so we're not absorbing, in my opinion, so we're not absorbing all the costs.
I mean, on the table is everything from working with MOUs at this SBA meeting that I just came from before I came here, having memorandums of understanding of some type and Kevin sending out the existing one to make sure everybody's people can work in everybody's vehicles between the 4 towns, and Landisville was there too. We're already like working more with Otis. SBA is talking about the possibility of putting a fly car here to respond to ALS calls in all 4 towns because it would reduce transit time, and nobody knows, like, but we're at least at the table having the conversation, and I think there was agreement. There were a select board member from Sandusfield, Brandy was there from New Marlboro.
Oh, Brandy.
From Otis.
No, it was
From Otis, yeah.
No, but Brandy wasn't there. Janie was there from
Janie was
Sandusfield.
there from where?
Sandusfield.
Oh, okay.
Who was it?
No,
So
Janie was there from Sandusfield. Who was sitting?
Kara, she was from New Marlboro.
New Marlboro,
Yeah.
right.
There wasn't anybody from Otis there.
There, but just the ambulance person from Otis. So you know, I think a lot of people are willing to sit down at the table and have a conversation of what are we thinking to do as a group? Do we want to move towards the district? Do we want to move towards shared administrative services? We need to have the conversation because none of us can sustain it by ourselves, and we're already all mutually dependent on each other. And I think the people doing it know. It's just a question of, do we have the political will to have those difficult conversations and come up with a way to do it? So I think we don't know what that's going to look like, and I don't want to commit to something that's too early in the process.
Does Sandersfield have a fire captain, fire chief?
It
does. Yeah,
they have one full-time person. Is that like,
No,
it was a little unclear. I felt like,
Sandus,
do you know the answer to that?
The fire chief, I think, is about 20 hours a week.
Sandusfield has a full-time EMT at days, and they've added a couple EMTs just this past year.
And they're using their police person
Yeah.
as a, what do they call it? FPO or
PTO, what was it? No,
community
I can't remember what the term
something
was.
officer. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was.
So they'll have a full-time EMT person on during the day, 5 days a week, 8 to 4, along with the police officer.
So, anyway, so, I mean, I think the idea is that the override allows us to go in the direction we have to go, but we don't know what that direction is. But if I have to come up with a number now on the basis of a potential projection,
I wouldn't do that because we just don't know.
but then we have to do an override twice.
Well, I think we do the override like we talked about
Yep.
in today's meeting. It's a work in progress. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
we've spent what the last 3 Tuesdays here for 2 hours talking about it in the day. It's just, you know, like we talked today, just because we get through the budget process doesn't mean those meetings will stop.
You know, and it doesn't. I think there's a lot more meetings to come. So
we, just to speak to the procedure.
Yep.
By the end of this week, so today's our last regularly scheduled meeting unless we post a Thursday or Friday meeting.
Well, I'm gonna move that we do the override specifically for the fire department for 1.1 million. And people can turn it down, but I don't know what else to do. I mean, I literally have like thrown myself at this problem for a lot of hours. And that is the best number I can come up with. Am I happy with it? Heck no. I would love to get something for nothing, but like, I don't know where you go to do that now. Right? It's either pay for the service or don't have it. And we can ease our way into it, but at the end of the day, we just don't have the people unless we pay them. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. If Chris and Sean work out of town, your dad is the driver for every single call in the day. Is he ready to do that? Does he want? How supportable is that? I don't know. I feel like it isn't supportable. Is the problem. So, I mean, if I had a magic wand, I would wave it. But I don't. I only work with what I got. So, does that answer the question?
Yeah.
What else
I
do
mean,
I have?
we just need a motion.
So I motion.
Do you want to wait and have a conversation with the?
Sure. Let's wait and have it with the finance committee.
Okay, for the feedback.
When do you have an email?
I'm looking for it
Yeah.
right now.
Is that we need to vote on what will be on the ballot, so it's gonna be, shall the town of Monterey be allowed to assess an additional blank amount of
Do
money?
you know when you sent it? What day?
Yeah, Rebecca.
Do you have a plan?
Yes, we have a lot of plan.
Okay.
Feel free to come on Saturday and
Well,
hear
that's no
all the
problem.
details,
Yeah.
or I can talk to you separately.
Yeah.
Because
I was gonna ask if you could like record it and post it to the website maybe for those that.
it will be,
Oh,
it will be,
okay.
yeah.
But I can also call you.
And I'll be happy to put up the slideshow as well.
Thank
Do you know what day is it?
Monday.
Monday last? Friday.
just the search feature sometimes fails me epically, so. Up to an attack, I wrote it earlier this morning.
Okay, there.
Here we go. Right, so am I making this motion now or are we waiting?
I think we're right.
Okay.
I mean, because Steve and all of them have been participating for the most part in the meeting, so I think.
I mean, at the end, it's the select board that puts it on there, but I'd like to make sure that we have it done as well.
Then next up, we're gonna talk about seaplanes landing on the Garfield.
Sorry, just the thought of that is so crazy.
Adam wanted to do, that's what he said. he wanted.
I know,
Um,
who's still on? So what's the,
I think, I don't have any reason that we should ban seaplanes landing on the Garfield. As long as they do it safely.
I mean, the only problem I've got is how does a seaplane assess whether there's a swimmer? Like, it's very easy to see how they'd see a boat. Well, a boat or a kayak are a lot more visible than just a little person's head swimming along.
Well,
And if they're not wearing a
fish they
space,
might kill. I mean, they're spending all this money to take the weeds out to keep the fish, and I keep thinking they want to land a plane that can kill things.
I don't know. I'm more worried about killing a person
But the
than a
purpose-
fish or two.
So
Oh, people.
Okay, so don't ban.
Roger.
I did reach out to our town council about this because it was from a citizen. The citizen inquired back at the middle of March, and they asked about land and takeoff. So I sent an email to Donna Brewer, and the thing is that it's two things. It's a great pond, so it has some specifics to it because of the great pond. If there are regulations that do allow a plane to land. So if this was just a regular body of water, a plane could land at their whim as long as they weren't interfering with public access. So they couldn't like park in front of the beach. They couldn't, park in front of a boat ramp. They couldn't, if we had a fishing dock, they couldn't interfere with that. But because it is a great pond, it then falls under the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, and there is a general law that allows towns with great ponds to adopt bylaws regulating seaplanes. So we haven't adopted a bylaw. So until such time, according to our town council, basically
They can do it if they want.
State recommends that we adopt the bylaw if we want to, but until that time, it's unregulated as a great pond, so a seaplane could land as it wanted to land.
Do we foresee an influx of?
I don't know, because I was asking, I asked,
Please take this one.
I asked Sean Tryon if he ever remembered anything, and he said he vaguely recalls a plane landing there in his lifetime, maybe once or twice.
I mean, is it possible the individual is inquiring because they wish to start doing that?
I don't know. It's a citizen up on Hoop Eye Road.
So they're not late.
For all we know, it could be their friend flying in from a different part of the country and is going to land their plane, and they'll go meet them and they'll come visit.
So I think my road address is.
So
I just don't, the safety issue, if it's a Saturday afternoon and people look up and they're water skiing, you got a plane landing.
I mean,
I don't know, how do you prepare the people on the water too?
I think it's a real safety issue. I just don't know how much effort it's worth spending on putting a bylaw on there to ban it unless we anticipate it's actually gonna be a problem. It's like saying you're not allowed to have an elephant ride in your car.
My feeling is like we said with the bylaw, I wouldn't take the time out to do that. We got other things to work on. It doesn't, someone's making a request.
I wouldn't take the time to ban it.
I don't think.
I think we'd be solving a problem.
I mean,
that exists.
then you're trying to project out every possible problem you can have. We could be sitting here writing 100
I
bylaws.
know.
So I would not make it. I wouldn't do it now.
I would agree. Next.
Adam, you want to bring? Did
Adam, did you have something you wanted to say about this?
is it still on the phone?
I don't know.
unfortunately.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what?
Did, we just talked about the seaplane on Lake Garfield. Is there anything you wanted to say?
Oh, no, I was just curious if, they used to land the planes on there years ago. I haven't seen it. Are they allowing it or not allowing it?
Basically the upshot, according to the lawyer, is that unless we have a bylaw that doesn't allow it, it is allowable. We're not sure why the citizen inquired, but since there hasn't been a lot of plane activity, we're not inclined to make a bylaw and try to get it passed to prevent something that hasn't been occurring.
I was just gonna say, who's responsible if someone gets hurt? Is that the state, the town, the person flying the plane?
Probably the person flying the plane.
Well, I don't know.
Also, just so everyone knows, it's a complicated answer from the lawyer because great ponds are by statute open to the public, but only for fishing, boating, and hunting. So they're not really open to the public for seaplanes. Great ponds.
Coming to fish.
Unless you pass a bylaw
That allows it or doesn't allow it?
that doesn't allow it.
But they're not really allowed by statute. It's not like a right. You have a right as a member of the public to fish, boat, and hunt on a great pond. You don't have a right to land your seaplane by statute.
That's not what
I'm
she's,
reading her email.
what she said.
Given that great ponds are by statute open to the public,
Yeah.
but only for fishing, boating, and hunting, I opine that the ponds cannot be used by seaplanes.
But she's recommending the adoption of a bylaw.
Yeah, I mean, to cover CYA, and that's her job.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes our job too.
We
But
just said we wouldn't.
we can't think of everything that would ever go wrong in town and make a bylaw against it.
Yeah. And one, I guess one could argue, for argument's sake, that a seaplane is kind of a boat, and if I was fishing on it, I'd be fishing in a great pond.
Yeah.
In my boat that I flew in on.
Yeah.
So, so I guess.
All right. I think
Sure the plane does not
in
fly.
all, I think we leave this one.
Yeah.
So
we're not doing anything about a bylaw on that.
on a related note, but different, the boat ramp monitor at Lake Buel is not going to be funded. So they monitor boats coming in basically for zebra mussels and some other invasives.
Yes,
to make sure
and they hand out documents and things like that. Make sure people wash their boats off and all that kind of stuff.
going between different lakes.
Yes. Yep.
We have the opportunity to fund a boat ramp monitor at Lake Buel, but if we don't want to put money towards it, there's a grant opportunity.
There's a $6,000 grant opportunity, which is interesting. So they don't have the money to pay the person, but they have the money to pay us to pay the person. So
Wait, what?
so yeah, so they offer they offer a best value grant opportunity.
Who's that?
The state,
Okay.
and which the funds are available from Monterey if we wish to utilize them this fiscal year and for future fiscal years as well. It'll be subject to the annual budget, but the grant is a $6,000 per fiscal year and can provide training to anybody hired, as well as educational materials, handouts for boaters.
So does it pay for training and educational materials? Does it pay their salary?
It says we paid the grants and we can provide training to those hired. It's sort of feels like that, but it doesn't necessarily say it. It seems like that $6,000 is for them as well as training and educational materials. Or it says we can provide training to those hired.
Yeah.
So there's also and educational materials. So they provide that. So it sounds like the $6,000 is just to pay them.
Would
But I
there
could
be the
find that.
opportunity to use the beach monitor as a boat ramp monitor as well, or would those two duties conflict?
Well, one point to make right off the bat is we don't have a boat ramp monitor at Lake Garfield.
Correct.
So people can launch their zebra mussel boats
And you got no one?
into Lake Garfield.
I hope the point doesn't get it.
So I don't feel incredibly compelled to add more bureaucracy.
Well, too, is how do you manage it? If someone's at Lake Buel, you gotta make, are they showing up? It just becomes,
Another.
how big is the problem?
You know what? Maybe we need to, maybe we should communicate with the Lake Buel Tax District. I'll reach out to Mark.
Yep.
Because they might think that there's a high benefit to having a monitor, and maybe there is. They would know better,
Mhm.
and maybe even they would hire the person.
So we could write the grant and they would hire the members.
Possible. It's possible.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I'm just thinking,
Forgot about that.
we don't know much about Lake Buel,
Mm.
and we don't have a boat monitor at Lake Garfield. I think there's fewer boats that are launched at Garfield because the boat ramp's not as easily accessible,
Mm.
and Lake Buel's a little bit bigger. And maybe they find that they really keep invasives out with that program. So I'll reach out to Mark.
I'll reach out back to this person from the state too to get a little bit more information.
Um, We have a meeting with the finance committee in 10 minutes. Prior to that, we could dive into minutes. I'm not sure if we have any minutes that we can.
I didn't understand my time.
No,
You did,
yeah.
you sent out yours.
I assume
I
you were
did
still in
not.
a meeting when I sent those out.
Yeah, I was. So I haven't.
And then I'm also responsible for 18 and the planning board meeting.
Oh, I asked her. She said she'll get it to us as soon as she can. She said it's written out. She's written it out. She hasn't typed it out yet.
By what time? What days? We could have it by like
It'll be 2
Friday.
weeks Thursday.
Okay. Yep.
Then I'll finish.
Which meeting was that? That was
The 13th.
13th. Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Unanticipated business, could I
Yeah.
ask for a question? Has this come up about the fire company, the fact that if you're gonna have a full-time fire department, which essentially we probably will, that they lose their nonprofit status and that we become owners of the building and the land? Because they don't do
Go for it.
anything anymore
I
for
mean-
free for the town. And so therefore, they're not a nonprofit. And so their deed is, because I remember going through this years ago, that if they no longer exist to be a nonprofit, it goes to the town. And so if you're paying.
I think
for
it's a little more exactly what the deed is. It's a little more complicated than that.
Oh, no.
But
we
the
went
topic
through
has
this.
come up before, yes.
We
It's
have
come
gone
up,
through this
well-
with Dawn, trust me, we went through this word by word.
Well, the deed says I agree with you on what the deed says. It says if it was dissolved.
Right.
So it has to be dissolved by the officers of the company.
But then,
It becomes property for safety, fire and safety for the town of Monterey. So the tax records are public knowledge, and they have raised money. May not have been what they used to raise, but they have raised money. We have brought it up in a discussion. I don't think it's something we're going to resolve overnight, but Susan and I, it was the topic in today's meeting, we're going to continue to have discussions about it. Because it becomes a paid staff in a building, it's different now. By paying them rent, my position is by paying them rent, we don't do that with the DPW and so forth like that. So we're looking for every dime. Okay, we know what the lease costs. If what is the real cost to run that building? We're going to have discussions with them. We can see their tax records, but we can't see their accounting records.
well, that's why I was thinking that since we're spending all this money, that they pay their bills the same way that all the other departments pay their bills. And the other question is that they employ Melissa, and that's a real liability to the town.
I don't know if they pay Melissa because
I've been told they did, so.
yeah, but I can tell you the tax record for 23 showed $0 for wages.
It could be hidden somewhere else.
It could be, but I wouldn't make that broad statement. That's my personal opinion.
sure she's doing the paper. But anyway,
She may have been doing, I strongly doubt that is still the
the
case.
other question I have is they are renting their space out to Fiber Connect, their leases, their service. And after, I know Greg Barrington is in a suit with the church there. That's a for-profit business, so that theoretically they should be paying tax on a percent of that because they're using part of their building for income-based business, and therefore they don't have, they have to pay property tax on a percent of the building they're using that they're renting out to a for-profit company. And I know it's in land court or court, Greg Barrington's in court with it over the, what's that called, the name of the church that they.
St. James?
St. James.
St. James Place?
Right. Because they rent 3 offices to for-profit companies, so they're determining what percentage that, so if they do stay as a nonprofit, then we should be taxing them on the percent of the space that they're using for-profit, to make to a for-profit company.
I know that you're right that Fiber Connection has servers downstairs. I've
I
seen
don't
them.
know if they pay any.
I don't know.
If they don't pay, then it's in like kind, it's still income, and it's still space to wait. And they better be, at least some of it, other than the town, paying the electric bill for those. But whatever it is, they're a for-profit company, and therefore, if they're using a nonprofit organization's stuff, then whether it's in kind or they're getting money or they're getting free internet or whatever, a percent of that percent of their value has to be paid in property tax.
I don't know.
And that's something to look into, only because then, not that it's gonna take a lot off of the 1.1 million, but it's, at least it's, if they can't have it both ways, either they keep their nonprofit, then they have, and the building, and that has to get done, and if they don't, then the town has to deal with having a private company using the town building. So, it is complicated, I know, but
It is.
it's just another ring in the.
I have a note, I don't even know what the agreement with Fiber Connect is at this point, or how big a percentage of the facility it is, or what the
I don't
agreement
know.
is. I don't know anything about it.
But I mean, they rent the pavilion out to the town, so they do for-profit things, they rent to people, I think, if someone wants to rent it for a wedding, that's a for-profit.
I'm not sure how that works, like,
I don't know
think
either.
I think
people
it's in
pay a
contract.
fee to use
I don't
a
think
church
they don't.
to be married in, and the church is a nonprofit, but I don't think the church is paying tax on that rental fee. I don't think that's the way that works.
Okay,
But I could be wrong, but generally with nonprofits, I don't think that it is. You were involved with the church.
An issue with the church?
She is raising the question of whether if a nonprofit is getting any money for anything they do. So for example, renting the pavilion or charging a fee to have a wedding in the church, whether the nonprofit then has to pay taxes on the money they
No,
earn through that.
I don't think that's what it is. I think if it's similar to the St. James place, St. James has actual offices of companies of
That they're renting.
for-profit companies they're renting to. I think with to say that it's the same thing. Effectively, Fiber Connect has offices in a nonprofit
Right.
building. Should they be paying personal property, which is what's happening in they're actually arguing. St. James is arguing they're being taxed too much for
right,
personal
they're
property.
in court on
Yeah.
the percent of the tax,
So, but the
they're
issue,
not saying they don't own it.
right? So the issue is that there's a for-profit company in a nonprofit building, and they should be paying personal property
So
tax
it's personal property tax, not real estate.
No, and real estate.
and real estate tax too.
It depends on the situation.
Well, nonprofits, there is a tax one called the 990T. Most nonprofits may be aware of 990s. The 990T is taxable income that's not, and it's taxable because it doesn't relate to the primary purpose. When I first became treasurer of Monterey News, they were paying tax on advertising. They thought that was not
prior to her.
But I said, no, advertising is information,
Right.
and you don't have to pay tax on that. But there's a fine line. When I worked at hospitals, they didn't have to pay tax on laboratory services. When they did laboratory services for other hospitals, they had to pay tax on that, because it wasn't part of the hospital's
Right.
mission. So it's a very fine line, whether it's part of the mission or not. You could even argue that that pavilion is part of the mission.
I think.
Yeah, we don't pay, they don't charge us. to
Not,
use the
not
facility.
to,
Or not anymore?
No, it's in the, I remember the lease agreement, we have access to it.
Okay, because we used to pay $2,000.
I don't think so, it's not.
But that's okay. And I do know the way churches work is it's a fee for the privilege of having you renting here. They're not renting you space. That's how it's worked.
And you could argue
Well,
marriage
church
was
has-
under the.
That's how
So-
it works. It's a fee.
okay, so
That's it.
I think, thanks for raising it, Rebecca. I think there's more than we can figure out at this table
It's
tonight.
an ongoing discussion.
But it's 6 p.m. and we have all of our finance committee members here. And I think the most pressing piece of the budget is the health insurance because we need to sign a renewal by April 1.
Yep.
So we got to hammer that out tonight. We went over the options last week.
Sorry, I'm just sorting through all the things. I'm trying to find the relevant.
Is there anything that you have to add, Roger?
Okay, here.
No, I don't really have anything to add. What I received from Wendy Terrell was the reduction with the $250 deductible. And so, and also we'll be moving forward. My suggestion is that we add the vision as a component into this, but I found out that the vision requires 75% participation, which for us is, we've only got 9 people, so it's like 6 or 7 people. We can sign up and say we're going to do it, but we might not get the benefit from it. Yeah.
Right. It becomes free cash. Did we discuss, so you got the number for if we do the deductible. Did we talk about any of the other copay changes?
It was kind of all up in the air, and it kind of, when we left that meeting, I know we'd spoken specifically about the $250 deductible, but.
Right. Do we want to talk about any of the other ones, or do we want to leave it at just the deductible? What did the rate end up being if we did the deductible?
So, for example, is if you had an individual with a 2.21% increase, it was $894.26. With the 7.51% increase, it was $856.80. So there's significant savings all around. So I might be able to just pop it up here.
So it's still the numbers. It's 4.7% off of the 12.21%.
Yes.
So those numbers still hold.
It's
Okay.
7.51 is what the
Right.
increase would be versus 12.21.
And can we choose between a 250 deductible or 750 deductible? Or is
No,
that
it's
No,
single
it's for a family. Yeah. And so I spoke to her about that, and the way that works is that each individual so if you have five people in your family, each individual has a $250 deductible until all the family members gets to $750, and then that's when the deductible just
Okay,
stop. You
3
stop
of them
paying.
hit the deductible.
Yeah. Yep. So that means you're done with that, and you're not paying out of pocket for that specific for the deductible. You still might be paying out for the copays and all that, but then you have that out of pocket of $250 or $2,500 and $7,500.
Yeah, Nikki.
Don't forget, when you're figuring out how much they save by not paying the 12.121 and paying the 7.51 with the deductible, you have to add in that deductible to what they're paying.
Assuming they end up using the deductible.
Well, yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah. So it's for a single person. It's not that if they actually use the deductible and they use it all up, it's not really much of a savings at all if they use all $250
It's
of
like
it.
less than $200.
Yeah, but for when you get into the especially the families, there's some cost savings. It's just, it's not a huge dollar.
So
amount,
in
but
your worst year, if you pay the full deductible, you still save money.
in your worst year,
Yeah.
like meaning you were a single person paying,
And you paid your $250,
you would
but
lose, you would be losing money.
a little bit.
Yeah, it's
How
not.
much is a little bit?
I'd have to go figure it out, but I have it on a piece of paper.
And that's pretty much, I can tell you it's pretty much guaranteed, because the only reason they offer the breaks is
Yeah.
because they make money. in it,
Yeah,
right?
but on a good year, you
Right.
could, on a good year, you
I
could
have
save
it on a
money.
piece of paper somewhere.
On a bad year, you're gonna be out.
Yeah.
It becomes a question of sharing the costs.
Right.
How much does the town absorb the risk versus how much do we share the risk and the costs with the employee?
Yeah.
Either way, the insurance company wins.
Yeah.
They're like the,
Always.
they're like the
Except for
casino, they
9/11.
don't lose. The
So,
bank doesn't lose.
so what I'm seeing is if it does increase the full 12.2%, the employee's portion would be,
Well, let me do the math. Well, the employee portion, I have to. This is all the town side. So I'd have to figure that out. So this
We did
is
some back and
well, the monthly for the 12.21%. No, that's just looking at the town.
yeah. So it's the town side. So the hold on. Let's see if I took this. Hold on. Oops, 0.25. So that's what monthly an individual is paying $199.24. So annually they're paying $2,390. So they had to pay out of pocket the $250.
Yeah.
Right. So
It would be a significant.
it would
It'd
be
be like almost 10%.
if they paid the two out of pocket. So if we kind of like. So those are your costs. So that's it. But a family of four could have on your worst case scenario, you're gonna have a $750 deductible. So a family here would have $750. It's about 10%, but you're saving more. You're paying less over the course of this year. So like right in here, you have to.
Are there any strong feelings among people whether to add the deductible or not? And the other copay options?
to add it as something to make them pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will repeat what I said last time. I think that since we are in the future going to definitely increase our workforce, I think this is the time to change the dynamics of that too, because we're going to have to go there eventually. It's one of those things that it's just everyone has, most plans do have a deductible. It's not out of the ballpark, but I just think it's a base we're going to have to set eventually.
Mickey, did you?
It's just by what I had that from before. Is it possible not to have the copay on the MRIs and CTs and PET scans? Simply because I could see people skipping them and dying. That's.
I think at the moment, we're just talking about the deductible. We hadn't talked about copays, but I agree with you about the high-tech imaging issue.
I mean, you're not going to skip going to the hospital, because usually the doctor just has sent you there. But it's a choice to get those special imagings, and sometimes you really need them, and people would say, well, I can't afford it. And,
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Copay is usually something you pay out of your paycheck. Deductible is something the insurance company takes off.
No.
Before they
No,
start.
No,
you
copay.
pay your checking
You pay
account
you-
to the doctor's office.
At your appointments. Deductible is an annual plan year that before they start to cover all out of pocket, so you have a $250 deductible, and copays do not count towards your deductible. So
So I have a $250 deductible, I got a blood test, it was $125, I have to pay that in full. Next blood test, I pay it in full. Third blood test, I have no more out of pocket. Deductible before they.
Well, we have two co-pays there. You pay co-pay out of their paycheck.
That's a premium.
No, that's a
That's the
premium.
share of the premium.
That's
There's
a
three
premium.
charges. There's
Right.
a deductible, a copay you pay to the healthcare
To the
provider.
healthcare provider.
And your share of the premium, like 75% the town pays and
It's
25% you pay. So there's actually three charges that come up.
But I thought we did the math last time that even with all these changes, what Roger just said, the largest difference would be for a family of 4, worst case scenario, 10% or something, right?
Except I think actually the family is in a better.
It does
position
better than the
single
individual,
person.
the older individual.
I think we could run the numbers all night long, and I think
Right.
at the end of the day, there's a question of, are we willing to change this benefit that we offer to employees?
That's what I think.
So I think that's a very important question. I also think whatever we decide, somebody needs to bring the numbers to the annual meeting. Because this may come up and people may say, what other options do we have about health insurance? And we should be able to say, well, here's the breakdown. We don't want to say, well, we don't know, or we have those numbers somewhere. We want to be able to present the numbers cogently, like where the breakpoints are. Because if they want to amend it, and because we don't make the decision, we just make a recommendation. to the
Actually, I
town.
think this is a decision we do make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the select board, I'm gonna have to sign a health insurance renewal.
We make that decision, but then in terms of the budget, what if they say, well, we don't want to, if it's more, we don't want to fund 12%?
Ah, I see.
If we made the decision for it to be 12% and they say
Yeah,
it's
I
too
mean,
high.
we could really,
we
if
wanna
they
have the
vote
number.
no,
We want to have the
we would
numbers.
have to go back, but it would be messy, so the goals cannot do that.
Right, so I would bring numbers to the meeting if no one suggested.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
that we can explain it to people and explain what the rationale is, whatever we decide.
In the past, I don't think
Yeah,
this ever
Rebecca?
come up. I don't think this has ever come up. I think because somebody would have to hold that line item, and I think people just think healthcare is part of the salary thing, and once you explain it, they're not gonna go into the nitty gritty and the fine detail.
And
I
I
think
think
they
everybody
already do.
knows that the
They have
premiums
no
go up.
idea.
The premiums go up.
Everyone's
Yeah.
premiums go up, so I
Everyone's
don't think
premiums
they're gonna question it, so I think you just gotta
Make
decide
the
what you
decision,
wanna
but
do.
bring your backup.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally would be okay with raising the PCP and specialist copay to $15. Like, I think that's not an unreasonable amount. It doesn't change the premiums a huge amount, but it's more than 0.5%. And I don't think it's a big ask. I hesitate more about things like the imaging copay and that ambulatory surgery copay. I mean, I think encouraging in outpatient surgery, like day surgery, is a good thing. I wouldn't want to discourage somebody from doing that. I mean, it's arguably less than inpatient admission copay, but and because it's a copay, it doesn't even count towards the deductible. So if you did go to the hospital,
That's right.
it doesn't even count towards your deductible. So
Just
I
counts towards
hesitate,
out-of-pocket.
right? I hesitate to do the hospital admission ones or the ambulatory surgery ones or the imaging one, but I feel okay about the ER one
So the top
and the
two
PCP, the top
co-pays you're
two,
okay with.
yeah,
And so changing that to the $15 that's suggested.
and the ER copay.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm okay with the ER is that we now have a much closer, more accessible emergent care, and probably one opening in Barrington in the near future, I believe. So that makes me feel more comfortable with that, because up until now, you only had one choice, and that was Fairview or all the way to BMC, right? And I guess Pittsfield has an urgent care, but it's a long way to go if it's urgent.
So what we're looking at, Susan's proposal is to add the deductible, add the copay for PCP and specialist office visit, and add the emergency room copay.
Well,
By the way, I paid
Well,
$200 for
so-
that
so-
copay.
So back up a second there. So what were you saying again? You're saying the $250 copay
Yeah, line
Top three.
7
Yeah.
and 8, the PCP and specialist
Okay.
copay,
Yeah.
and line 10, the ER copay.
The ER copay. So
But
making
not
that,
inpatient or ambulatory care copays.
and making that, changing that from 50 to 100.
Yes. That's what I was proposing. No, vote on it.
Anyone opposed, have a different sort of
Do
opinion?
we know what the money difference is?
Well, it's 12.2% minus
I just have to
4.7.
do some math here. Hold on.
6.63.
So that's a 6.88% would be an increase. So if I put 6.88%, 6.88%.
So we about halved it, the increase.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yep. So if I were to take, to do apples to apples, because this did have the 3 additional firefighters in it, it would be, this year, the dollar value was 128,345.76. So it went up 137 to 137,000. So it's really just an increase of,
$9,000.
yeah, something like that. $8,830.
And if we did 12.21%,
If this was 12.21%, it'd be 15,000. Yep.
So we about halved it.
That's pretty good. And sounds really
I
good
think
to
it's
have
fair.
people use services. I think that sounds nice.
So overall, effectively, if we add the 3 additional firefighters in there, and they put 6.88, and the additional family plan that we put in there.
Right.
That's 6.5%.
Let's see, that's hold on. Oh, well, hang on, I gotta change. Okay, yeah. So that's it's total 236,262. One family plan. That's not right. Yeah, it's times 12. Yeah, times 12.
Wait, what?
C18 times 0.75 times 12. Yep.
Oh, I see. Because it's like $2,000 plus a month. And then, okay. So the town total isn't actually total. It's not the annual. It's just the.
Yeah, the annual's 211.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. And so that hopefully went over here, down to here, over here, and health insurance. It hasn't refreshed yet, but modern technology. Probably because it's up.
So are we all in agreement?
Yes, I am.
So,
Okay, so we're gonna go for it. I'll sign the renewal based on.
I have to get a new renewal, so when I get the new renewal,
Yeah.
with those on there, I'll let you know, and you can sign
We're
it.
saying yes to the deductible, yes to the higher copay for the PCP and specialist, yes to the higher copay for emergency room, no to higher copay for inpatient admission, no to copay for ambulatory outpatient, no to copay for MRI, CT, and PET scans, and then yes to the higher copay for short-term physical and occupational therapy, and yes to higher copay for chiropractic.
Cool. That was painful, but successful.
Let's go to the budget. Start at the top, I think.
Yep, so it just hasn't refreshed yet. It's gonna take a minute.
And we'll just talk about what we need to talk about. So office assistant wages, yeah.
Are we just overall, where are we on the bottom line right now?
Well,
So we have an idea.
it's off a tiny little bit here. I gotta get a refresh on here. Hold on, it's a little slow on the refresh because this is off. What did I say it was? Hold on. Oh, that's right. So it's 236, 262, yeah, 230. I just want to make sure. 236, 262, 17, and yep, that's what it's showing up. So that's what our budget is right now.
What's the percentage?
What is it, 6-1?
Keep going.
612,295.21.
Can you
And do we
switch
have
over to
a
see the percentage?
target?
We all set? 12.59.
Little as possible.
Yeah,
After
I
we
mean,
just decreased it. Wait,
so that's
Doesn't decrease much.
12.59.
It only decreased it
So we'd like to get that down to
$8,000. So whatever.
10, 9. I thought we had that number lower last week.
Only because we were playing around with the fire.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, but that doesn't
Well, but we're
also,
also-
that doesn't include your capital.
No.
It's just operating.
Standard.
and the
Any
12
mo,
includes the-
any
Do
interest
we
on
want
this
to
fund?
bring
We
it
have
all or
to-
just play?
We
Or
have
just
to,
go?
attack, we have to approach
One at a
this
time.
in a
Systematic way.
systematic way. So my proposal, which is not a great one, what I'm going to say is
So we can take pot shots at you.
we start from the top and just work our way down.
Okay.
If anyone has a better proposal, like
No, let's do
the
it.
big money items, I'm fine with doing that because we can talk till the cows come home about $1,000 and that's gonna be nothing for the bottom line.
So I just have one question. We're at 12.59% increase from last year. I understand this is dependent on the conversation. Are we shooting for 10%, 9%, or?
I don't
Low.
know why you-
We're all shooting for low, I think.
Right, and I just want
Yeah,
to
we
make
just
that
go
because
through-
that depends on the conversation. That's
Just
what
don't
I'm saying.
want to take a
So
chance.
low,
Why
low.
wouldn't we
Let
shoot
the
for
record
levy
reflect.
plus
No one wants to
free
spend
cash?
money.
I don't know.
Because there's no way with the fire department in there that you get.
No, I know, but at least that tells you, if I look at it, we're looking at $550,000. But we won't.
What was that, and what was the increase? Let me get
Well,
back up.
the maximum levy is 5.161, 5,161,000. Free
We're
cash,
at 6.1,
3.
so we'd have to cut $500,000. Do you think that's
Yeah.
a logical?
I would love that. That's
If
what
we're not gonna have an override this year.
Well, actually, that's, we have to cut $144,328.06.
I'm
Oh, I
sorry, what's
forgot
the
the new-
number?
Right.
New
The other
growth, is that what that is?
Well, actually, hold on. Hang on a second. Let me just put this one thing in here.
Well, I have new growth.
Well, I was thinking you were.
281,516.07. Hold on.
That's why I was asking the question.
No, no.
So it's not quite as simple as $510,077.
I didn't even
Yeah.
calculate it, I just
Yeah.
looked at it.
Yeah, so because from my conversations with Don Clausen, right, and trying to understand the tax rate recap, what I did, this is just comparative. So this is FY25. I sat down with Don and went through this, and this follows the formula that they use at the state, which when you follow it all the way down, if you take the current receipts minus the receipts.
I don't know if we're getting a little bit too into the weeds.
I know, but I just, my
Yeah.
point is that we can't just say $510,000 is what we need to cut, because it's not really that.
It's 140.
It's 143,322 gets us below the FY26 tax levy. But that's where that gets us below from everything. If we use $281,516.07 and what we use for free cash and all that, so it all affects it. So that's all I was trying to get at.
Yeah, that's important.
So office assistant wages, I was going to propose 18 hours per week, but let's just keep it at 14.
Yep. Well, let me just come back.
Did we change the
But
wage?
based on what you just said, what would be an ideal
We
number
just
for our
changed
budget?
the hours, did we change the wage?
Based on
Total bottom line.
Well, total bottom line is total bottom line is the levy limit, which is $5,161,734.15.
That's why I was asking those overall questions.
So
That's my main-
can we remove the hold then? And so is that including an extra 100 hours?
That did include the extra 100 hours in there. It just has to refresh. So let me just double check here. So it would be 16,623. It just hasn't refreshed yet.
Okay, that's fine. But we can take the hold off.
Yep. Where'd it go? There it is.
Oh, there it goes.
Town administrator wages.
So I know
Yes,
Frank, yeah, you would put a hold on that.
I think about what we're paying the fire chief, the proposing a fire chief, deputy fire chief, I brought up that the salary structures are getting pretty far. With the, we did give the police chief a 4% raise. Gave two police officers a 5%. I think we should do something for the town administrator.
Yeah. You mean other than COLA?
Yeah, I mean, they added in there, I mean,
I agree.
whatever, I mean, it's.
I agree, and there was some discussion, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but when they were hiring, first, whatever. So you guys should talk about that separately and give us a number. I think there was some, right?
He's not gonna retire on it, but I mean.
No, but I think when you hired him, right, there was something about first year, second year, what we had in the budget. So I think if you guys want to have a discussion separately and put a placeholder in there, that's fine.
Process-wise, it's probably better to have that conversation without the town administrator.
That's what I'm saying. No, I don't talk about it, leave us alone.
Well, who's gonna put the numbers in the computer?
Well, with him in private, not in.
Well, he may come back and recommend a rate for the select board.
So
I was
Frank,
fine.
are you proposing raises for those positions, town administrator, police chief?
Well, we already gave it a
Highway.
we haven't talked about the highway after, I'm not quite sure where that.
Okay, so we'll leave the hold on it, and that's the select board thing?
Yeah.
Okay, town accountant, I think we can take the hold off. That was clarifying. Did Eric give you that 42,000?
Yes, yep, he gave me that, yep.
And you're happy with how it's been going, the roles have been changed, people are doing different jobs now, right, Roger?
Yes.
No,
Well,
I mean, our
but-
accountant is our
what do you-
accountant.
What do you mean
but
different jobs, like what, in what sense?
I meant like some of the things that were being done before by the TA are being given finally to the accountant.
No, it's still pretty much the same. No, actually, me giving things to the administrative assistant
Okay.
is fixing it because the
I thought some of the data entry and stuff like that.
nope,
No.
Yeah, okay.
no, it's
I
all
don't know
changed.
then.
It's all the same.
Town accountant expenses, that's the audit.
Yep.
The software and the GASB.
Yep.
And no real increase, just combining the three of them?
Just combining the three of them. I don't, no, there was no increase on his side for anything.
Yeah, we can take that off. I wonder in terms of presentation with all the big change we have going on, if we're better off just presenting it like last year as much as I'd like to combine it. I don't know, do other people have thoughts on that? There's a lot of departments, yeah. There's a lot of departments where we have a few expense lines, so it's wages and then maintenance and other expenses. In this instance, software, audit, GASB 75. Should we combine it, or should we just keep it the same as last year to have less moving parts when we talk about the budget?
I would say whatever works better for you, you should do, and we can explain and figure it out. What way do you like it? What would be best?
I would prefer this eventually, but I just feel like people are gonna look at the budget and go, where's the $500,000? And they should know that it's not in the lines where it's not.
He's talking about here, we've combined 3 lines into one. Do we leave that, like, we've done that before where we're combining some lines into one line, but in the year we're combining them, we show it both on the warrant, and then the next year the ones removed disappear, but instead leave it as the 3 separate ones this year. I'm personally not sure that matters.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's my minutia.
Right.
Assessor's clerk wages, we were caught up on the holiday pay maybe?
Yes, I think we were caught up on the holiday pay. Let me find out what that is there. Workout wage, I'm just trying to think the assessor's clerk.
Yeah, I just want to
Yes.
I want to remove the hold. Yeah.
So that was the issue that we were running into, is that, and I did, it would say in here 7 holidays.
Can you do 17 and a half hours times the wage times 52 point?
What?
What?
So, what did you say to do?
We'll figure out based on the wage what that budget should be.
Yeah. So
What's
so
the wage?
so this is the wage right here of a 3% increase.
All right, we'll figure this out outside of the meeting.
I'm not quite.
Okay.
Okay.
I think probably this is
So-
this is the
So
part-time holiday pay.
at some point in time, and I don't know the reason why, but they were it was being budgeted. The actual holiday hours were being budgeted in. Because I think at some point in time in the past, even if you were a part-time employee and you worked on a holiday, you didn't get paid for that holiday. But
Depending on the holiday time.
It's
Right,
right, you know what, we got so much to work on,
Okay.
we'll figure it outside of the
Right.
meeting.
Yep.
Because I think it's mostly between
It's
me
not
and you.
gonna
thing.
change the
Okay.
budget. This
Take the
is
hold
enough.
off, please.
Yeah, we all agree, whatever
Will you
works
remember
out
to
to
do
be.
I've highlighted in my
Okay.
notes.
assessors,
Assessors expenses,
expenses,
we went over that.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
it's a combining issue. It
Yeah.
makes it look like there's a big increase where there's not.
Hold on.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So given
Susan?
what's
I do.
happening this
I
year, maybe
do.
we should keep them small.
Okay. You mean keep them the way it
Separate.
was?
Yeah.
Just keep them
Let's
separate.
not
Don't have it
confuse anything
change.
else this year.
That's
Since
fair.
we have so many big issues. to
Yeah, I
cover.
mean, fair.
And you're
Just
right,
wait.
you're right. I have to-
Twice a day, like a broken clock.
Just means I gotta go redo the spreadsheet.
Again.
I have to redo the spreadsheet for the third time and remove all those things. Okay.
I think, Roger,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna save us a lot of time on town meeting floor.
Okay.
If what?
I would love to combine them. I think it's silly.
Because you're gonna have the same. You're gonna give me the same argument next year
No, we're not.
when I do it again.
No, Roger, this year we have the override and we have a lot of complicated things.
Okay.
So I think the more
Right.
that they feel familiar with, the better this year.
Sure.
That would be
Yep.
mine.
But-
No?
Keep it simple and stupid, so that
Keep
people
it
don't.
simple, Snorty.
Yeah.
So,
just
but I
saying,
think
you
the
know,
hold
no,
is,
fair.
Could we take
the hold is off.
You
The
take the
hold
holds off.
Treasurer services, did Sarah give you a number?
No, we were supposed to talk to her.
I'm supposed to talk to her.
Yeah. Well, we
All right.
can. Yep.
Then leave it.
So you can have the same conversation when you talk to her about what are the principal pay downs required. You can also ask her what she is expecting to get paid for next year.
Well,
Then we'll tell her we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
So HR, we dropped from 11,000, 9,000. Can we go further down?
What did we actually spend this year?
I'd have to double check and see. I don't have that on this computer,
okay.
but yeah,
They send
It's hardly
invoices many
anything.
months late, so
I
it's kind of
know.
hard to know.
I have to.
Well,
There's
I
actually
have a policy done.
there's actually one invoice I'm waiting to process because I have to talk to them about the invoice.
Okay.
So, but it's only a couple $1,000s.
It's hard
so,
to know our need because we've only been using a consultant for a limited amount of
yeah,
time.
I'll find out.
And they're not great on billing, but the only thing Susan's been working on the policies, but we're almost done with that.
And then when we are, what are we using it for? It's
But
not like.
just the prices.
I will. I'll get in touch with
Let's
them.
just drop it to
tomorrow.
5,000, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What do they charge an hour about?
It varies. It
Depends.
Depends on who it is.
It's a
About
government
120
entity.
to a couple hundred.
So it's 150 an hour and you have 5,000.
It's a government entity. I think it's gonna be on an as needed.
And it depends on what we. There's actually a scale.
Yeah, there's a scale.
Yeah, it depends on who's used.
Meeting warrants, so I think we can take the hold off of
You
HR.
get like 33 hours.
What's yellow mean?
Yellow means I think I've got to play, just kind of make sure that the spreadsheets are consulted.
Recalculate the length.
Yep.
Meeting warrants, printing and postage, I mean, that's probably fine. You never know,
Yeah.
because if
Well,
our,
three.
if our warrant is 3 more pages longer, it could be a different
Yeah.
price. So I think if we keep it at 3,000, let's not reinvent the
And
wheel.
that's, and that's 3 meetings, right, 1,000 per meeting?
No, it's 2 meetings.
2
Okay,
meetings.
'cause we don't-
It's about $1,500 to
Oh, I
mail
thought-
a town meeting warrant.
And the
And
second
when we
meeting is
have a-
working, we haven't
If
needed a
we have
special
a
meeting.
third meeting, we have to,
Reserve fund something.
the
Okay,
goal is to
fine.
not have 3 town meetings.
I agree,
per
that's
year.
why I
That
asked
would
how
be a
many it
big
was,
goal.
yeah.
We're just combining,
Yep.
or not combining, we'll see, broadband and IT.
We won't combine them, but I'll drop down the IT expenses because I dropped it down by 3,000 or 3,000, I think.
So is that drop down right now, or can you?
This one is the
Okay.
27,000 is, but
I see.
up there. But when I
Right.
when I
So you
take all
dropped
that out,
20 IT from 28 to 25.
yeah, because there's that there'll be some hardware to update again next year. Some other computers I still have left to do.
So do we still
Yeah.
need any holds on there?
I don't believe so.
Let's take them off. Town clerk wages, I had put a hold on because I was hoping we'd have a budget for an assistant town clerk. I don't think it probably is gonna make sense to do that.
Hold on. Election workers, I did talk to Amanda, and there is one. There's only one election next year, so that's shown in this, the 1,566. And the election expenses, I just decided I dropped them down a few $100s because I went and looked historically at them, and it's really the election worker expenses is always around like 2,000. Once it went up to 3,000, it's kind of all over the place over the course
But
of.
if we only have one election,
I know even on years when we had one election, there was still like $2,000 spent on it.
Well, first of
So-
all, you have that machine
Automark,
for the.
which is
lines or the
$1,000.
deck or whatever
Yeah.
that is, that's where you get, that's $2,000 to get it
I,
programmed. So,
if it's $2,000 per election, how have we done it on a budget of $3,000 for a year with 4 elections?
I don't know.
I'd have to
I
go back
think it's
and look.
$1,000.
I think it was
But
5.
don't we have 2 elections?
No,
No.
there's only one. There's only
In the
next.
town
There's
election?
yeah, just a town election in
Okay.
May of 26.
Oh, so then we don't even have to do the ones for the deaf, the blind, if it's.
So
Yeah,
Automark.
they
Can we
don't
go
need
to
it.
election expenses, Roger, and see the lowest year of the last 3?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, you cancel town elections. Isn't that what you think? Cancel all the elections.
So it's like it's weird. I mean, so these are all their expenses. So it's more. I dropped it down a little bit, but I dropped other expenses.
What was it in previous years?
So the low and high was 419 and 2001. So I dropped this one specific line, other expenses, to $2,300. Some of these they haven't spent anything. It's like professional development; they haven't spent any money. So
No, the state provides that.
Yeah,
Last
so,
year they
I mean-
provided someone to come up and do our training.
so like postage and mailing, the highest is 0. I mean, the lowest is 0. The highest is 391. Office supplies, they've kind of gone all over the place. They had a $585 a year once, which was back, I think, when we had 5 elections, 2023 or 4. I can't remember how many it was. So probably the only thing that you could play with right now is professional development.
Well, no, election expenses.
Election expenses is all of that combined.
Great.
So if you want to whack other
If we had
expenses,
I mean, we had 4 elections this fiscal year.
I know, but if you follow along, it's like some days it's like 1,500, 14, 2,000, 1,100.
Well, why is
It's all over the place.
there's probably weird accounting in here
But
because,
it's been sort of kept the same, 1,500, 2,600.
so is that a sub account called other expenses
Yes,
of the election expenses
of
account?
the election
So there's
of the
probably
elections
been poor
account.
accounting where other expenses for various other needs were.
It's possible.
It's food.
They bought food in the past with it.
Yeah,
They bought
so
all
if
kinds
we
of
buy
stuff.
food 1 time instead of 4 times,
Who are we talking about?
we ought to be able to drop the line. I mean, there's no way you can go
You don't
from
have to, I mean.
33.
Listen, you can ask for a potluck, we'll bring food.
And you don't have to get it from a place where it's $12 a person either.
Oh, no, we get it from
Whatever
we
you
guys,
send me.
guys, all I'm, we're not radical.
stop. Okay.
There's just, if we had 4 elections for $3,300, we should do 1 election for not 3,000.
Correct. So
Well-
maybe 1,500?
Well,
Not even 800.
okay. I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to drop it to $500, all you're doing is affecting that one line. That's all you're doing. You're not affecting the other 4.
Right.
You're affecting the one line. So if you got to take $2,300 and drop it down. So it's not all 3,000. What's that? Well, if you look up here, right? Election expenses is made up of multiple lines. There's professional development, postage, mailing, office supplies, and other expenses. The line item that's in question is other expenses.
Correct.
Do you want to take it down to $500? Do you want to make it 1,000? It's kind of been all over the place for the past 3 years. It was
Right, but
1,800.
it's been, what we're saying is it's been driven by personnel and it shouldn't be, there should be a little more direction and we can manage that line.
800?
So take it down. 750. Bidding war.
Whatever you want to put it at. Let's go 1,000. How's that? 1,000 good?
Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
We're getting stuck on a grand when we.
I know. Exactly.
So
Hold on. This just has to refresh itself. So I'll take the holds off of those.
yeah,
Conservation Commission agent wages.
Concom agent wages,
Oh,
is that all squared away?
Hold on a second.
And they feel taken care of.
Damn it. You were hit by the same thing.
Hold on a
hate
second.
that thing.
I gotta find my.
And they feel taken care of, Tom?
Hold on. Where am I here? I gotta go to apps.
Well, no, there was a way, there were a few moving parts in there.
They got a new agent.
They got new agent, and she got the salary she wanted something.
Well, I think they also, the police have,
No.
What happened to my-
yeah, it is.
Where's
And we
my,
never appointed a 7th.
here it is.
So we're gonna be down to 5, maybe back up to 6.
Sorry, I pushed the wrong button.
Well, at least you didn't push our buttons.
You smell it?
Yeah, what happened?
Give me a second.
What?
It's not over yet.
Yeah, share. Working budget. There we go. Okay, so we're taking the holds off of these.
Yeah.
So Conservation Commission agent, that is the dollar range. She's only making $24 an hour now.
And they have enough hours?
So conservation, what I did for conservation is, because I talked to Noelle about the possibility of her getting a raise.
Yeah.
And so at a review. And so this actually is 26 hours for up, it's 24 hours up to $400, and then I added the extra, and then for the second 6 months, I added an extra $1 an hour onto it. So that's what came out to
Which is the same amount
$9,800.
of hours as we were using last year.
Yeah, we were using 400. So
It's half the year at the lower rate, half the year at the potential higher rate.
yes, yep.
Good.
Okay, hold off.
So that's what that is.
That's what I was asking. If the raise was-
I keep pushing the wrong button. That's just me. I have to go back and look at the town report expenses. I think that was good. I just
So
have to double check that.
The town report. Yeah, we won't know until for
Yeah.
a few weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think I went back. That's what it was last year. And
I would just level fund it. Again,
Yeah,
if
just
it's a little bit of a longer town report, you never really know exactly
Right, and
what's going to
we have to reserve them.
police chief.
So these were all, these are a little special because the police chief had asked for 4% for himself and 5% for the officers. He effectively, I went and talked to him about the overtime wages. He was looking to increase the part-time officers by 5% and effectively level fund, because as of March 18th, there was still 60, they'd only used 30 some odd percent of the budget. So it never gets really used, but it's there. So that's.
So can we level fund it?
Yeah, we could definitely level fund it.
Well,
Definitely.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Level fund it.
Level fund it.
Actually, level fund it.
So like I
If
could
they,
come
if they
here
don't normally expend it, that seems reasonable.
Yes.
and go, hold on.
It's very, you know what? A lot has changed in the last few years.
Oh,
because
so we wanted to level fund
there
it,
was
right?
2
Yeah.
full-time
Level
employees
fund
with
it.
a lot of reliance on part-time staff
Right,
Now it's different.
to 3.
But also, the thing with OT, like, if it's anything like what I've learned through doing fire people, or the highway, right, you have to put more in there. It's sort of like salt and sand, because you don't know, you have to
Yeah.
guess
That used
how
to be
many
our
hours
biggest
you're gonna
problem.
use. Maybe you won't use that many hours, but you can't afford to use more hours than you've accounted for. So you
Yeah.
have one snowstorm and one rainstorm that turns to ice, that's one thing. You have 6, right? And like, if it
That's why-
conveniently happens between 9 and 5, you're good, but if it happens at 2 in the morning, not so
Well,
much.
that's why the change in how we.
So I think-
bottom line.
So do we want
Can
to
we-
take those holds
I
off
think you
or?
take
Can we take all the holds off? We're giving the police department what they request.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have no problem with that.
Me neither.
All right. Moving right along.
Remember when Sandy stuff?
Fire department conversation.
I don't know, what conversation do we?
Well, we came up with a number today. We have a scenario.
We do.
Well, I think you should explain.
So let's
this
try
scenario
that to that.
Okay, I'm happy to explain the scenario. So, let me make sure that I give the number probably correct in every meeting. So essentially, the preferred scenario from the fire chief, the deputy fire chief, is that we do 3 full-time people, the chief the deputy chief and we'll call it captain / EMS. That person would, by having some EMS expertise, allow them to develop a plan, whether it's shared services with other towns or an independent service that would include at least EMT level service, which I think there's a lot of reason to do. Adding EMT to basic fire does not add a lot to the total budget. It's like $10,000 per person, so we're talking $30,000 to go from just firefighters to having a firefighter EMT. Total for the year, which I think is a pretty modest amount for a higher level of care. It enables us to provide much more rapid service for the ones that require the most immediate intervention, like heart attacks, strokes, asthma attacks, and anaphylactic reactions. It would, where the every second counts, and a couple of minutes versus 20 minutes makes it basically life saving. So.
Were you saying the captain would be an EMT, or he would be?
He has EMS experience, so he would be an
EMS.
EMT, possibly just an EMT, but he has experience in running EMS type operations, which the current guys haven't. They just do fire, right? And they know that they need to do this, but they want someone else who has that existing expertise that would help them to plan for how to proceed
And to
in the
build
future,
out.
and to build out from that.
Did that person do the procedures?
Yes.
Yes, they themselves could, as soon as we're under a certifying organization. Like, we have the capability to do that, but right now they're all first responders, and we're not an EMT-based organization.
Right.
But in order to do that, you have to have one. So it's like,
It's a chicken and egg.
it's a chicken and egg thing. So anyway, it would be the 3 full-time personnel plus 4 12-hour per diem shifts on weekends to make sure that we have, because we'd have one person in the house 24/7, and on weekends we'd have 2 people. So we could, because Saturdays and Sundays are the hardest to roll a truck to get volunteers. Saturday morning and Sunday morning in particular are very, very difficult. And there's a few other times that they know they're short. This would also involve continuing the shift program, since there's only one person in the house. That would mean at night we have 2 people if someone's on shift. The shifts aren't full every night.
So those roll the trucks, and then the volunteers show up
Correct.
on the scene.
Sometimes on the scene, sometimes to the house.
Well,
It depends.
if they can get there quick enough.
Right. It's, and everything else is kind of the same as it's always been, so that's really what the new cost is. With 3 people, we have to pay for the inimitable Kelly hours, because if you only have one person in the house and that person isn't there, then you have no people in the house, right?
And the whole plan, that's the whole hinge of the plan, that's what's different.
That we have a person
Right,
in there
all in
24/7.
That
Did you
is
say
the
we are
basic
paying
difference.
for Kelly hours?
For a 3-person
Three-person
plan, you
team.
have to, or you have 20% of the days with no one in the house.
Like that was the risk factor we talked about?
Yeah, but was that in your spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So
Under
what are we talking
3-person.
about in terms of the changing cost of the original amount?
So, yes.
For the high end plan, less over 150,000 left. From the low end plan, 120 more, so I think it's 480, how much
From
is
the
that?
original plan or from last year, are you asking?
Well, both.
We had 3 scenarios, I can show you the spreadsheet. So 3 scenarios, the highest one, this is the middle one, to the lowest one. I think the lowest one was about $120,000 difference, and then another 150 to the highest.
From last year.
From this year.
No.
From
From
last
this
year,
year.
We're talking
it's
about,
450,000.
We're talking about the differences between the various
The
scenarios
various
we're looking at
scenarios
for
from
next
this
year.
Right,
Are you talking about the difference between
25
last
to
year and this year?
26.
yeah, it's
will
for
be-
about 480.
Based on what you're recommending, 25
So
to
the difference
26
between
would be-
last 25 and 26 would be 355.
355.
And what we were originally thinking about would have been,
Much greater, another
More.
150,000.
so instead of, I think I saw 648, so instead of 648, it'd be 500.
A little less.
6 people, no Kelly, give me a second. There's a lot of numbers on this
Yeah, I
spreadsheet
have
at this
it, yeah.
point.
I think when I was
Would have
just
been,
looking
the
at what we initially said, it
compensation
was
would have been
648 was the placeholder.
678.
with hiring in October, with 6 people hiring in October, with only 1 person on shift.
That's why I say 150 to 170.
Yeah.
So the 643 goes down to what?
It's at the bottom of that sheet, I couldn't find it.
Which is that the draft? What was that called? Was that the draft FF?
Yes, it was the one I couldn't find today.
Oh, the numbers on that were never right, the old one, if you're talking about the new one.
So what would the new number be that we would put on the warrant
For what?
for the compensation, fire department
I
compensation?
believe it's 642,922.
Oh, I thought it went down.
It did go down, but
I
it
thought
was
I
already
said
on there with the down.
499 or something. I thought you said like.
No, I said the additive,
The addition
the
is
addition went
355.
down. It's 355, I know, the 499 was the high.
So we're going from 280, I'm thinking as a resident,
Mhm.
we're going from 284 to 643. That's what the resident's going to say. We're going to have 359,000.
Yes, so just so you know, Susan's working on the firehouse briefing, that's all gonna be encompassed in it, so I would suggest that you look at the comparative spreadsheet and what she's doing.
To try to.
Right, exactly,
I'm
because we spent a lot of time on that today already.
More helpful.
Right, those sheets are very helpful.
The health insurance number is gonna be different now because we just changed that.
So what happens if the full timer is not on duty?
Yeah,
And they
I
show
know,
up to
that's
fight
right.
fire, overtime, that's how they get
This is
compensated.
what you're buying for 359.
So that you get the 3 people, 24/7.
And.
So you
have
have
to
to
ask
pay
Susan, wait,
I
think there is overtime.
Plus,
So that would be
48
paid overtime.
hours.
Well, we don't.
guaranteed.
We're
No,
not
don't.
rescuing.
But it's not budgeted that way.
We're not budgeting.
I would not say that.
What are we doing with?
Yeah, but
We
what
have to
we,
ask. We have to ask the scenario. Let Susan sit
Right.
down.
but the point is we don't.
Susan,
We've had a
it's-
couple of conversations, if you could sit down, Steve has a question for you.
Yeah, I just don't figure out, we have a big fire. I can't picture our, the people that are no longer on duty, of the 3, not showing up for big fires. How do they get compensated when they roll out, when they're not on duty? Is it overtime to them? Because obviously it would be more than the.
We do have an overtime number included in that. It's not just salaries, it's overtime as well.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
not
good-
sure.
that's a
It's a
good
really
question.
good question.
Because I guess technically because they're.
If they're now
Well, you have to
employees,
pay.
they can't get paid under the old system of call charge.
I
Or
guess
can
not.
they? I don't know.
Employee,
I don't know.
and they're subject
I
to.
don't know.
And
It's a really good question.
But there
No
was
one
a
has asked,
management.
how does no one thought of
I
that
don't know, it
question
just came
until
up to me. I
now?
was like,
I'll tell you how, because we finally clarified what we want with the
Yeah.
things, now you can start to ask other questions.
yeah, I didn't imagine.
Right.
There may be a requirement that they get time and a half also.
Well, so we have that compensation number includes extensive OT calculations in there. Whether or not they're precise, since I have begged multiple times for other people to look at the numbers. It's not
That's
like
the
I did.
whole point of having 3 people for this year. It's gonna be kind of experimental and see how that works out, right? I mean, so.
Yep.
I wouldn't budget for it. I would just, if it happens, we'll figure out a way. We'll cut the select board salary.
I will give up my salary to the firefighters.
I'll give up my salary too. I always thought it was kind of a joke
double my
anyway.
salary to the firefighters.
I mean, seriously, for a while.
No,
I
no,
was
no,
told
no,
my
no,
salary. You probably need it.
They deserve
Our
it more.
old fogies are another kind of question.
All right, so should we keep moving?
So we got,
We'll leave the fire, right, I mean, is there anything else before we?
I don't know. We're
So
meeting next
fire
week, right?
inspector stipend is going away with the new
Well,
program.
Correct.
Yes, it will be. Yeah. But I'll
So-
leave that all in.
Leave
The
that.
line is there, but it's.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then Berkshire County Sheriff communication, I think the hold is off that, it's gonna be zeroed out.
I mean, I think
We're having our own.
yeah.
Alternate building inspector wages were level funding, I think we can remove the hold there unless there's anyone who disagrees.
No.
Moving on now.
Do we-
Schools, they
any
tell
news?
us.
So I did reach out to them.
Yeah.
And I asked when the budget was going to be done, and they said it's on the website, but I haven't gotten anything from them that says.
Okay, well,
So
we'll get in touch
we'll
with
get to
them.
them. Yeah.
We don't have a lot of flexibility there.
We don't have decisions about that.
Director of Operations salary, Frank.
That's the same as what we could talk about.
40% of our budget, basically,
Okay.
we have no control.
Highway road
I
maintenance.
think we level fund.
We agreed to level fund it.
Yep. Yep, and that's the level fund.
Chapter 90 is way up. We have a Chapter 90 reserve. There
Yep.
shouldn't be any shortage of road
Oh,
maintenance.
I gotta work on the transfer station operations. Still, I'm still a
Did
little
you get that
behind on
thing
it.
out to Susan Wade?
I hadn't.
Yeah, I
I'm
figured
gonna
there were a
try
lot
and
of
get it
meetings
today.
today.
So I'll get
Group
it done
purchasing
tomorrow.
regional. Do we find out why?
I looked at that, and I looked at the
It's probably not worth taking up time now because $1,000.
Yeah, I'll go look
We'll
and see
leave
it.
the
I
hold on it.
don't remember why that happened that much. Veterans assessment, that went up. That's sort of a natural thing.
Yeah.
And the veterans benefits.
So Parks Beach Monitor.
Um,
I had to hold on.
Okay.
I think we're just taking a hold off.
Okay.
Okay.
Parks Commission,
Oh, did you have the
I
conversation? with them?
didn't.
Yeah,
I meant to go on Thursday and I didn't make it, but I think I will talk to Tom and try to level fund as much as possible.
And I do have to call those people too. I have to get in touch with
Yeah.
those
and
three
you
people.
saw there was an extra bill they sent about something, did you see that?
So I need to talk to Tom, but probably they just need to pay it.
Right, but we have to figure it out, they can say level fund, but this was unanticipated, we have some new needs.
We had an incredibly amazing skating season that was 10 times as good as any in the last couple of years.
I'm just-
We can always at the
I mean,
end.
I know the answer, I'm just.
It's $1,000 electric bill.
And we can always, we can always do a reserve fund
Yes, I
at
agree.
the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Is
I
the
gotta
lifeguard
say.
payroll not really not going up?
We just don't have.
We haven't.
We just don't have
haven't
numbers.
yet.
We really fixed that.
Didn't we, does this include the changes that we proposed last week? Or it does, right? Didn't we
With Parks.
reduce some of Parks?
I have to work with Parks. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I should have done that. I
That
meant to
is-
go to their meeting Thursday. I didn't make it.
Yeah, I don't think we did because.
We're going to try to level fund as much as possible.
Okay.
Sure.
Um,
Need a dollar.
Well,
go
yeah.
back.
Just give me 1 second. I forgot to share something.
Jumping around makes me dizzy.
Where
I
did you
can't
want
look
to
at
go?
it,
I
I feel
think
know.
we can safely say that Lake Garfield can come down to 60,000,
60?
2,000.
and it can't come down any further.
So you want it to be
It might be
60,000?
able to come down more than
I'm
that.
sorry. Do you want it to go down to 60,000? Is that what you said?
62,000.
So 62,000.
And what is bringing it down, depending on,
We are doing less dash.
we're doing less?
Dash, the diversity
Dash,
section.
Pulling up the weeds.
Correct.
I think a robot.
So this is gonna. So you want the. So this is the thing. You want the overall budget down to
Just
62,000?
take professional services down
I think your idea that we should.
By, let's see, 62
to
would be.
59,000.
There is one.
It's just going to be less dash.
So 59. So 50. So that's good.
It's, I think it's a good robotic challenge, open eye.
For just
Yeah.
It just works 20%.
I think someone's doing that.
Memorial Day we got to bring down because we never spend it. Can we just look at our last 3 years of expenditures?
Yeah.
I think it come down to 500.
I'll have.
and
I still have to
somebody's
fix
gotta
that
call the guy.
spreadsheet. But I'll look and see. But you
I'm on top of
want to bring it? You think you can bring it down?
500.
So you think you bring it to
call the
Buy
500?
some ice pops.
But did you call the bagpipe?
Yes, I did.
I'll fix it on the other side. I just need to fix something on the
Yeah, it's
spreadsheet.
still about 1,000, right?
So it's 500 that we want to bring it down to?
No, but the bagpipe is more.
What's up with community center wages? Why is
Okay,
it purple?
1,000.
So community center wages, they had been asking for. I gotta find that sheet. Hold on a
I'm
second.
still uncomfortable with that, but
What with 500?
no, I think the community center, the schedule still
Of the
needs to be
wages.
looked at.
Hold on.
No, I'm okay with wages, I understand what they're trying to do, but I still think that there could be, they could raise another $1,000 in that fee. And at
So,
this point, every brand
Wait,
counts.
Roger,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know what.
So this is the community center. So they were requesting a $17,226. We're requesting $17,226, which was an increase to 15 hours per week and increasing the salary to $22 an hour.
And the hours are coming up from 12.
From I think it's actually 10. Is it 12?
No, it's 12.
12. Oh, yeah, 12. Yep.
So
that's right. It was
what
10
if
before.
we, I mean, we've had turnover in the position. We went up from 10 to 12. Do we need to go up from 12 to 15? How can we know if we've had so much turnover?
We can't.
Can we keep it at 12 and give the
We could.
raise request? Does that sound reasonable to people?
I think so.
So let me just do some math. So it's 12.
And I think that, like I said, not that it's good for code, but they have the option to also revise their fee schedule, which is outdated and still doesn't make sense.
Even with.
So what can I just
It's
can I
not a lot of money.
can I just ask? Because
But
I'm
that's
sorry.
the whole
Let me
reason
hold-
1,000. And then
1 second.
Still,
1 second.
I don't think you
Let's
should
figure
say
it
that. I don't
So
think
what's the
it's
question,
being
Roger?
Hold on. Dang it, give me a second. Let me 13 780.
I don't know, we continue that.
I-
It was not very drilled down. There's no mess between the meeting schedule and what they're actually collecting.
This is what I know. I spoke to them. They do collect fees
Right,
there's that whole fee thing.
$15 last year.
on events. They collect very few fees from the events. There's only a handful that they get, and that's that. So the fee is determined by the person, and then people pay that fee.
The person?
The person doing the event. So you're going to do a yoga. You're going to charge $20 a pop or $20 a pop. I pay you $20. From what I understand, the vast majority of events, the person keeps the $20.
I don't think we should go down the hole here. I just am going on the record
I
that
think you should be on the community center committee.
I'm
I
happy
think that's
to
the
do
only
it.
way you're gonna get
I'm
to
I
out of
guess
this.
I guess
I'm happy to do the crosswalk, and I think that when you look at their numbers and they're looking, there is room there to raise additional funds. Based on this.
There's opening.
Okay, I'm
Just
happy
so
to
you
do it.
Can we appoint her right now?
Yeah.
No, we can't appoint her. We have to-
I also wanted the fire
The
department.
fees that they're charging don't show up on this budget.
The accounting, no,
It
they
shows
go
up
to
as other
revolving
income,
fund.
just so you know, it's not
Right,
gonna
but
change your
even
bottom
shows-
line no matter what.
Right, I know,
because-
I understand that, but when I'm saying, when they say it was only $1,000, I'm like, right, you could be collecting that if you're actually crosswalking and doing it.
Yeah, see, you could go through a lot of items on this budget and there's a corresponding revenue somewhere, but we don't even look at that.
Right, but when we do know that there is, we should look at it.
This is
and
why
bring it
some
to-
boards require seconds to continue discussion on a topic.
Very politic, Mr. Governor.
So, for the community center, just to clarify, because I don't want to leave anyone in the dark, we accepted the wage increase, but not the hour increase.
Good.
Where are we? Are we down to that already?
We are down to this.
yeah.
So you want me to take
Memorial Day,
you
can
want
we
me to
keep it
take
at
that hold off?
1,000? Because I forgot we got to pay the bag
That's why I was
paper,
asking
and we
you.
got to get the lollipops.
Damn,
Yeah,
So should I take the hold off the community center wages and expenses?
Yeah,
because I think that's fair. What hourly up?
and off of Memorial Day,
And Lake
leave
Garfield.
it on Parks, leave it on Lake Garfield.
On Lake
I've
Garfield.
got to finalize that.
And so parks, I'll get in touch with those people on the lawns.
Yeah.
I'll get in touch with them.
Principal payments, we're waiting on stuff from the treasurer.
Yep.
Sorry.
And I did. So these numbers are solid, right? So
Unless,
know if you want to
unless
hold.
something changes with the policy. but
so the
yeah.
insurance rate is going to go down because we've added. It's actually going to go down because we added those additional percentages. So it's
So
going to go down a little bit
that's
more.
subject to change.
Yep.
Right? Retiree health and life,
That is not
subject to change. And can you just put health and life? Because I believe a small portion of it does go to life, right?
Well, there's I guess.
Oh, did you keep the life?
Life
But life insurance
separate.
that shows up separate. This is off the warrant again, so this is separate. So I gotta figure out what that life insurance is about.
I thought employees pay 100% of life. Or am I wrong on that?
Yes. I'll be honest. I don't know anybody who is paying for it.
And so why are we paying $300 at all? Not that that's going to change much, but
Let's keep it 300 for now.
Because I'm
And
trying to get.
try
I'm trying
figure that out.
to. I've been reaching out to Maya to try and get a better understanding on what all these numbers mean on a budget number, and I have to kind of coordinate it with what we paid, what companies we paid last
But-
year.
Roger, could you put retiree health and life insurance?
Retiree health.
is there actually no change in bonds and insurance?
This is
Oops, typo. Oh, there you go.
Is there a change in bonds and insurance, or is that just a placeholder?
it's a placeholder right now, but I have to go back in and look and see because I reached out to Maya about the bonds and insurance, and it was below that $120,000 was what we'd be looking at. So I have to go back through and look and see.
Well, we have our main policy, but make sure that includes all of our separate
Yeah.
riders or separate
Yeah, because
policies.
we get some stuff from Travelers, and there's a few other
We
places.
have a
that we
notary
do.
policy, we have a schoolhouse abandoned building policy.
Yeah. Yeah, so some of
So
that's
maybe
all.
that's why the difference is, but there's probably not a huge increase if the number you saw was lower.
Yeah, so it was lower than this $120,000, but it may be.
Well, we gotta get to the bottom.
That's
of
why I
that.
got to go. I have to look into into what the vendors were that we paid on these line items.
Should the treasurer get you an updated Medicare numbers?
You know, I reached out to Medicare, and I'm trying to hear back from them.
Steve, wouldn't the treasurer usually give a Medicare number?
Well, it's really just a percentage.
Yeah.
You have to match the employee, and I think the employee is 2 it's been a long time since I had a paycheck.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
forget what it
just
is.
a function, right?
Oh, okay.
It's really
Because I reached out to them. To Maya.
It's usually just.
Well, and your accountant should know that too. They
I'll
should know
look.
exactly the percentage for each of those.
It's Medicare withholding type, right?
Withholding.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find
It's a
it.
match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
FICA is two things, the retirement benefit and the Medicare. And we don't pay the retirement, we do pay the Medicare.
Medicare.
The employee pays the Medicare
Right.
piece at 2.6.
I can't remember. Yeah,
2.6. And then the town
can
matches
easily
it, so
find
that's
that
what you're
online.
looking at, is
Yeah.
the match.
Hey,
But
I'll
I
have to look
think
at that.
our,
I'll
our
double check on that.
treasurer is responsible for making sure deductions come out of paychecks,
Oh, yeah.
right? So the treasurer should be at the end of the day.
Yeah, they have to fill out the tax return, the payroll tax
You
return.
started at 6120295, and now we're at 61207.
6102. You got your numbers backwards, right?
No, 6120, Yes, I am dyslexic.
So what we're saying.
Oh, we're good,
Well-
we've dropped $90,000.
No, I think 20.
20, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
what we're saying to the
One
town
okay.
is that we're funding the fire department as a big number, it's a
Yep.
big increase, but the overall budget inclusive of that, including that, goes up about 13%.
12 and a quarter.
12.26. Yeah.
That hasn't changed a lot.
Well,
12.59.
yeah.
It's been right around 12%.
But that's,
What
you
was
know,
the last
given
year?
that we're adding these paid positions in fire, I don't think that's so bad.
Roger, would you,
That's tolerable.
could you
know?
take FY '26 requested dollar change
What?
down to the column, FY '26 requested dollar change?
Yep.
Down to the 6,100 number?
Oh, you mean like?
Yeah,
Oh.
6,100. I'm hopeful.
Oh, so you know, so
Yeah.
so you.
Yeah,
you
so I
just-
got the dollar change.
Just,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, let me see if I can.
no, put it right.
No, I know, I
Copy
just-
paste.
Yeah, so,
We'll paste it in.
I'm confused. What did you ask?
so
I want to see the dollar change year over year. So
E152
Oh,
minus C152.
I see what you're saying. Oh, okay. I get you.
Right, you got it.
Where'd the formula go?
that formula is funky. I think it might need a dollar sign in it.
That can't be correct.
Can you go to the?
Let me just. So.
That is
Oh, I
not
just did a
correct.
sum on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So you want the
That
difference
line
between
up,
these
right,
two?
the change from
Oh.
last year.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see. Oops.
And how much of that is fire and versus non-fire?
Well, fires we're increasing at 358,000
Plus health insurance.
Plus the health insurance.
plus health insurance.
We
Plus
were
health
kind of in
insurance,
that
right.
ratio, right?
So
Yeah.
fire's a fair chunk of it. You know, I'd have to go through and find work all those numbers.
So I think in the summary statement, it's good to explain that to the town. This is
So-
about how we roll it out.
Yeah, and we'll,
The total increase this won't be exactly correct because of the health insurance number change, but the total increase is in the ballpark of 467,
We're all
Yeah, because-
including that, but that includes ambulance and health insurance. So since ambulance is now in the special articles, it would only be about 440.
It shows.
to also go in the cover letter and also to factor in when we're talking big picture, Roger.
Mhm.
we're adding 2 items into the operating budget
Yes.
that are long overdue to be in it, which is the retiree health and life insurance benefit, which we paid every year since we started offering it in 15, 20 years ago. Retiree health and life insurance, and the Lake Garfield, which we've been paying almost 10 years.
Yep.
So we can, whenever we say
As special articles.
as special articles, that's contributing to our 666,000.
How much is the retired?
So we should put that in a cover letter saying,
Yep.
this much is fire, this much is, and if you take out those things, the rest of the budget is up
Right.
or down.
And we'll
But-
do those same numbers at our briefing, so if you want us to, yeah, I mean, you're capable of doing it, but if you want us to work on you with it, we're happy to.
So it's 23.
Is the debt service gonna change, or is
The
that?
debt service is gonna change. That could really screw us.
Were the 2 things?
We're having to
Retiree
chase
health and
down
life
the
and Lake
treasurer
Garfield,
for
right?
minimum payments, which seems not appropriate. But I don't know if that's standard from when you were an accountant.
I have no idea.
Were we
We can borrow
constantly
money.
were we constantly chasing you down? Oh, you were the accountant. Not
I was the
not
It's
accountant.
about 85K from those 2 items, Lake Garfield and the retiree benefit that came in from special articles.
So what else do we have tonight?
Well, we can look at special articles with everybody,
And
and
we
then we have
also,
a
we
2.5.
wanted to talk about
And we
the
have
Prop
no
2.5.
other holds and no other open items that still need to be calculated, aside from ones that we're not in control of, right?
Well, ones that we are still green.
Right, but I mean, but the ones that are there, historical
Oh, and
society?
we're meeting next week too, right?
So
Yes.
the E column is what's gonna be on the actual warrant as
Right.
special articles.
Right.
So it is it is the police cruiser for 69,000, the Southern Berkshire ambulance for 104,000, turnout gear for 75,000, OPEB for 30,000, cultural council for 3,000, some FY24 bills to be determined an exact amount, and any additional debt payments, which we need minimum payments to calculate additional payments.
I just don't know why the cultural council.
We always do.
We always do.
I think that, and
Oh,
I
it's a
think
match?
we raised
It's
this a
statutory.
couple years ago.
I think
and
it's
the
it's something that
answer
we
was
put
it
in there
has
every
to be
year.
special
Okay, I just didn't
article.
So,
Yeah.
yes, it has to be a special article. It's also unclear to me, it's possible what we're doing isn't also really right either.
What's that? The cultural council?
The cultural council basically takes that money and some state money, and Eileen would know because she's been on it
No, I
before.
haven't.
You haven't been on it.
That's one I haven't been on.
Eileen has been
Those
on it.
ladies are crazy.
Well, after you
But
did
they
the
take-
community center.
They take that and then divide it up to pay for kind of programming.
Right, but they get a grant.
But the grant money, I have no doubt they can spend on that. I don't know about the $3,000.
I just think we should know. I
It'll
just
go to
didn't know.
other local towns.
Is
It's
it on
not a-
match? Is it a match?
No, it's like a seat. I forget. It might be statutory. There may be something statutory about it.
That's
We
what
have
you
we
have
have to
to
start it.
spend, so it's a match.
Something like that.
Supposedly,
No,
Mandatory match, if you accept, you have to
in
spend.
Marlboro, they don't spend any town money on the programming. It's long and complicated, but we've just done that
And
for a long
I
time.
did see COA, how did that competition go with the band?
We're not
That's
funding the
still
band per se.
Yeah,
And
that's going to
they're,
be.
I'm just asking.
yeah, I mean, looks like they're gonna take up my suggestion.
Yeah, it
of
looks like
using
they already
the-
did.
Yeah, South County, which I think is a really good idea. It's cheaper.
Well, the South
But why
County.
not
Well,
use it?
I found out the South County connector, that $8 that's put on there for us is a round trip. It's just a $4 trip one way.
It's a really good deal.
Yeah. So, but that's what we use. Yeah.
No, we've been using Barrington.
That's it. It's changed its name 3 times in the past 18 months. It was a Tri-Town connector, then it was like the GB connector, and now it's the South County connector.
Except that's not what the COA was
I don't
using.
know
They
if
were
that's-
using the
I don't know.
thing that
In
runs out of
Massachusetts, it
the
doesn't say that
Council on
that is-
Aging in Barrington. That's run by Barrington, not the same. It's not the
That's the
same
thing
one.
that's run by Barrington.
Wait, it's not in the budget.
Okay.
So I think it's a good
All right.
question, but right now it's
And
not in
and
the
I'd
budget.
like to know that
Yeah,
3,000, I'm
but
not
The
complaining.
dollar
but I-
value is very different.
So we need to talk about Proposition 2.5 because the
Yes.
select board needs to take a vote tonight for it
Yes.
to be on the election ballot.
So, yeah, now I have to go find the wording. Hang on a minute. There it is. So I need to make the following, basically, Frank and I think Eileen all agree that we really don't have a formalized plan for what the long-term situation with the full-time fire department is going to be. And we can't come up with a figure when we're not certain where that's headed. Like I looked at Egremont's figures and I think they projected out 10 years and I think it's a bogus because I think they don't really know either. So they're sort of pretending like they know and I'd rather not do that. I think there are too many unknowns in what that situation looks like, especially because we just don't know a lot of things. All that said, if we went to a 9-person department, which is what a full-time 24/7 operation generally takes, either 8 or 9 people, depending on how you're staffing it, we would probably have to override by about 1.1, coming in at about 1.6 total to run 9 people. So I would make a motion that the following question be placed on the ballot for the May 4th. It says May 6th. May 3rd? May 3rd town.
No.
What's?
The town meeting is May 3rd. The town election is the following Tuesday.
Oh,
on
yeah.
May 6th.
I thought you were asking about.
I move that the following question be placed on the ballot for the May 6th town election. Shall the town of Monterey be allowed to assess an additional $1.1 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding full-time positions in the fire department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025? That is the motion on the floor for the select board. Do I have a second?
A second motion.
Any
Is there
one
any way
want to offer
to
feedback?
to make that number meaningful to the electorate in terms of what does that mean to my taxes? Like, does that mean my taxes are
Yes.
going up
Right now,
1%? Does that mean my taxes are going up 3%? What?
right now, that number doesn't mean anything to your taxes, because what means something to your taxes is what the levy is, and that number might mean some of your taxes if we actually use that entire amount sometime in the future. But I can't commit to our using it or not using it, since we don't know what that
I
plan
think
would
if
be,
we're
but I
look-
think Steve's point is very well taken, that we don't wanna have to go back again and again for an override. So I'm not sure how to answer
I
that
think
question.
there
in a
needs to be
meaningful
some
way.
explanation
I agree. Do you have a way
to
to
the,
phrase
to
it?
the,
Because
to
I
the
don't know what
voter,
it
so
is.
the voter can make a reasonable decision.
I think we talked about like just a chart that shows what every, I don't know what it is, Don had some number, 0.25% of this, what the amount that is additive to the value.
I don't understand what you're talking
So
about.
like, if it goes up by this much, this is the additional increase to a home. If it goes up by that much, like, but a very.
Right, but that was for an actual plan. This is for.
No, it's not, right, but it doesn't matter. It's like where we end up, these are the possible scenarios, or this is the valuation of these values. It's just pegging it.
I guess.
I
it's
know why
just-
you don't wanna do it, I'm just saying.
Well, I'm also paying it to a number that I feel is a little bit, it's not smoke and mirrors, but we don't know what that number's actually gonna be. It makes me
So how can we
uncomfortable, but-
explain that we can't give them that value if we can't?
I mean, we could
Well,
choose to make a
you
small.
can
amount.
give them the
Second.
value of what you think, and you can give them the reason why you think it's going to be that high.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that on the next
That it
real
will be.
estate bill that it's
Right.
going to be that, because
Right.
it's not. Because all we're doing is asking that we increase our ability to borrow, or to appropriate up to tax up to that amount. Not that we're going to tax them at that amount right off the bat. So technically, not technically, but realistically, we're taxing them. You know, we're going to raise and appropriate $5,288,494.46.
Right.
But we're asking to be able to have a space of an additional $1.1 million from the $5 million
And what we'd
wherever
actually
we
be
are right now.
using of that would
Would be $126,759.31
this year.
So that's what
Right,
we've
so
been
then
using.
you could show what that might, if, for example, with a lot of, for example, draft, maybe, like, every kind of
Right,
disclaimer
disclaimers.
you can put on it could mean for a household.
And we could, because we could essentially,
Right.
you could essentially go to that, web page. What's that web page that the state has where you can go
Oh, yeah,
put in?
it's easy for me to do
Yeah.
that, to put in a 1.1 million increase and see what it would be.
Yeah.
It's just like, that feels like a scare tactic without a plan.
Yeah, but
And that's why it makes me uncomfortable.
But if you don't give a number, it feels like we're clueless and we don't know what we're doing.
You want to have some
I mean, so you want them to have some, transparency and some confidence.
Educated
That's the word I was
decision.
looking for.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
Increase
you.
my
I'm
taxes
just-
by $50. That's very different than saying it's gonna
I mean, this
increase my
morning when
taxes
we were
by
talking to
$1,000.
Mickey, you said that this would mean a number. Where did that number come from?
That
You know
number
what I'm
comes
saying?
from that site, but it also comes from hang on, let me try and find the site so I can property tax impact calculator. That number comes from that site, but the difference is it comes from the site based on a plan that is much more fleshed out and complete.
So maybe the answer is we give them the link to that site and let them check it out for themselves. That's okay.
Or you say to them, if the town,
That's not a good idea,
if the
Susan.
town needed that 100,000, this is what it would come to in terms of your.
Yeah, and here's the
taxes,
calculator we
here's the
use and it's
impact.
public.
If the town were to appropriate the 126,000, this is what the impact would be on the average home, or if you pay $1,000 in taxes each tax period or whatever.
If then you increase the taxes, it levied by $1 million, comes out to $2 per $1,000 of your taxes.
Something like that.
It's one,
Right.
it's
And that is what-
1.52 for 1.1 million.
Because
The
it's,
tax rate impact is 1.52
Percent.
per
$1.52.
$1.52.
Oh, $1.
Yeah, $1.52 for 1.1
So that,
million.
and you can tell them that.
and then they'll, and I think you should be able to say, and I put that on my thing I gave you this morning, that if it's, if you have an average house, the average house right now is $707,000. That means your tax bill, if it was $1 million more, would go up by another
Close to $1,200,
$1,490.
$1,190.
So, and if it was $500,000 house, which is, so,
I don't know why they do it in the 50s, but yeah.
and that would be another couple of $100.
But the motion you read,
Right,
is that the wording that shows up on the warrant?
I believe so.
On the ballot.
On the
So-
ballot.
It'll be on the ballot.
Yeah, there's
But
another
will
wording
not
for the
also
warrant.
be on the warrant?
The warrant
I usually
But
think
will
they-
have separate wording.
But
different
they
wording.
both have to be, I mean,
There's gonna be something on the warrant and on the ballot.
Right.
That specifically is about putting it on the ballot.
And that's the one we have to have in now.
What's
could
the
you
date of
read it
mailing
again?
for the
'Cause I want, could you read it again? I'm sorry, it wasn't very
Absolutely.
long.
Yes.
No, it's not, I'm perfectly happy. And what's the date for the warrant?
The mailing?
We're gonna shoot for 3 weeks from today to sign the warrant, so that would be, 3 weeks. Next week is the 1st, the
Yeah.
following is the 8th, and the next one's the
Perfect, because
15th.
we made the finance committee briefing on that 24th, so that's
So
perfect.
April 15th, we're shooting to sign the warrant.
I move the following question be placed on the ballot for the May 6th town election. Shall the town of Monterey be allowed to assess an additional 1.1 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding of full-time positions in the fire department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025?
Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I'm reading the instructions to the finance committees on what's supposed to be on it, and it's specific. An override specifically has to mention why,
Why, yeah.
and you did that. That's
Yes.
what I wasn't clear on the first one. That's it.
Great, sorry.
It has to be together. You
No,
can't just
no,
ask
check
for an
it out.
override for
Absolutely.
general purpose. It has to be an override for a reason.
And I never
And
have
you
a
did
problem
that.
rereading. So.
Thank
So that's the motion. We had a second. Any other commentary? Do you guys support it as a committee, as individuals?
As long as there's some explanation statement like we were talking about.
Clearly, there needs to be
Something,
right.
because the voter has no way of.
And I'm willing to make it. I think that it's just, I wish that I felt like I could project into the future, but I don't think I can. I wish I could just ask for the bump up to be for this plan.
But if you say that, Susan, people are gonna lose confidence.
No,
You
I
have
know,
to
I'm
say what
saying it
Roger-
here, I'm not gonna say it there, but I have to say it here.
But I think Mickey's suggestion or something like Mickey's suggestion.
To
helps
say
the
what that
voter-
would be, yeah.
Helps the voter at
Well,
least
we were
assess,
saying-
gee, we're getting, for $1,000 of value, it's costing me $1.15 or something like that, or $1.50 or something like that. And we're getting full-time firefighters. We're not getting a paint job in the town hall. Full-time firefighters could mean something to me if my house is on fire or I have a stroke or whatever it is.
Fair enough. So, Justin's not voting. Are you voting?
Yes.
Yes.
But Justin can't vote because you're.
He's recused himself. Okay,
Okay.
so that passes.
Anything else
Guys, a
before
lot of
the,
milestones today.
before the finance committee adjourns?
Yeah, when can we
Hopefully-
expect you to have written minutes so we can copy them?
We have all kinds of minutes on the website.
I did, the last minutes, unless you just put them up.
Our minutes for these meetings were just that we met, we had a
Yeah,
joint
but I
meeting.
like to add this.
So that's the wording.
What's the
that
last one you
I
have?
want to do minutes like that. We met.
And we
had a
copied
good meeting.
theirs.
And we talked about the budget, various lines of the
No,
budget.
and 225, did you post new minutes? I looked last week.
For record.
All right, can we meet for 1 second on our minutes?
The
Sure.
motion and vote was.
We're just gonna meet for a minute on
We're
your
just gonna be
minutes.
that.
What?
We will
Okay.
meet for a minute on your minutes.
It is.
For a minute.
Right.
Well, I
If
think you have to do
Thank you,
that. Well,
guys.
I think,
Yeah.
I think it has to be a public meeting though if you're going to talk about your minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
right, but we
So
can
we
meet
haven't
publicly in
adjourned
the
yet.
hallway, we haven't adjourned.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
We used to do that, Roger, you don't have
I know,
hallway
I just
left with our minutes.
I thought you were adjourned,
Yeah.
that's all.
No, not adjourned.
Not yet, okay.
Listen, just, not for nothing, but listen, this was a bear of tackling and besides the overwrite and coming up with a scenario today, that is some major progress that was happening this week, so congratulations.
Thank you. I say
For
my
hard work
motion.
and thank you.
Okay, so talk about the minutes.
All right, well, we can't do it.
We can do it then here.
They don't want to.
They can wait.
You can finish up my business.
Oh, you still are meeting?
Yeah.
I thought you adjourned.
No, we didn't
Oh,
adjourn.
we're still meeting, we didn't adjourn. I can put mine on.
We're still meeting, but we're just,
We're meeting in the hallway.
we're meeting in the hallway.
That's a fire hazard.
Is my office door open?
If it's open.
Mickey,
You can sneak in through the,
No, I'm
you
not.
can sneak in through the back.
I'm just not book
Okay, but talking in hallway, please.
Yeah, all the way down, take a right, then a left, all the way down.
Thank you.
Right
Good night.
Thank you, Roger.
What else is left?
No, Roger.
And do we have any minutes?
We want to talk about the issue, the salary. I mean, my concern is proportionally, and I know that the fire department management will be working more hours, but the discrepancy
I
is
know,
getting
I'm
huge.
having a hard time justifying that salary to myself, even though I understand.
Yeah, but I, as we get into it,
I think it's gonna, for a lot of reasons, I think it makes sense to bump it up a little bit. I don't think.
I'm not gonna try to make it.
But maybe we can kind of match it up with the police chief.
right, yeah,
I think probably in.
Roger, why don't you take a walk down and supervise the children at the end of the hall?
I can if you would like. Would
Yeah.
you like me to?
Just for a
All right.
moment, yes.
Make sure they have a hall pass.
Oh,
And they're quiet.
I get a little giddy at the end of it.
So I think in New Marlboro, they have 7 classifications. And I think town administrator and police chief are at the top, right? You have
Well,
someone who's kind of,
yeah,
at
but
the end of the day,
Susan-
responsible for everything, and you have someone holding a gun
Right, okay.
and putting their life in the line.
I
So,
know. Well,
yeah, I think we could match up TA with police chief, and that's a good.
okay, but let's back up a little bit to fill you in. Some. The problem is when you get in, not the problem, the facts are, when you get in and you say you're paying the fire chief X amount of money, 50 to 40 hours a year, 40 hours a week, 52 times a year, and I have a spreadsheet, I could send it to you, so just so you know. So the base is not, it's like $80,000, right? It's 37.5 or something, Susan? But
I'm sorry, I was looking up.
Yeah, but
Stockbridge.
so,
I was
well,
just
here,
curious
give me
to
the-
go to a different town to see
I mean-
how they compare.
Well, I brought up that spreadsheet too.
So that Mike Canales, it's not this year, but it gives us an idea of comparable
But
salaries, right?
they're very high, but then it's not as simple.
112 for, well, I was looking to see how well they equate to each other. Police chief, not to us, but police chief to, town administrator to
Here.
fire chief in the same town. Just give me a second. So
But-
Mike Canales' salary in 2023 was 112.
Yeah, but Susan, it's not only the base salary. You start adding, because under the fire emergency service, you
I
can
know.
work up to, what is it, 52 or 53? It's the Labor Act before you pay
Well,
over.
but Brian and Roger are both exempt, right?
They're exempt, but I want to show you what we're comparing it to.
115 for the police chief.
Yeah, but what do
In
you
the same
have him
town.
with his Kelly hours, his holiday pay? It's up pushing 150 grand a year for Sean, right?
Assuming that actually some of the coverage hours wouldn't necessarily get paid,
Okay.
right? But we have to cover the slot. So if you have a per diem, assuming you could find someone to do it, it's hard to know who will use those hours. That's why it's like, we know, for instance, we're paying money for someone to cover his vacation, but we know it's not him. He's on vacation.
Right. So if you went through this and you said, I did this spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the police chief. That's at his new salary. He's making 45. The fire chief would be
That's
making
based on 40.
40.
And we know Brian does more than 40.
I know, but we
yeah.
do, okay. But you see, the big difference is here is their hours are 2,632 hours versus a 22,080s during a 40 times 52. Okay, so you can see the difference. But this is just based on him working these hours. It pushes it up.
It's a lot more hours.
It's a lot more hours, and then you add the holiday pay, but I don't have it in there for the Kelly hours.
So
This is like your
right. That's the 6. So this
see
is,
the Kelly hours. I don't even agree with the Kelly hours when I think about it, because when you research it on the internet, it says the Kelly hours were designed for basically a high stress operation.
but there's nothing. We can't change FLSA.
It doesn't say you have to do it.
Yes, it does. It says there, FLSA.
Well, yeah,
maximum-
but in the
it sets
28
the
days.
maximum number of hours you can have within a time period. You can alter the time period, but it has to be the same percentage of hours. And you work out the numbers, and it means in a 30-day period, they can only work 9 24-hour days, not 10, and they'd have 10. So at the end of the day, that's one every 30 days. That's a galley day if you want someone in the house. I don't know what else to do about that. Right? The only other thing you could do is if you could find someone that was a qualified person to do that job, you could put in the house for regular salary and not per diem and not OT, right? But or you could, you find a captain that's not getting the.
Yeah, but I mean,
chief salary.
that's what I would say. If you're paying these guys, I'm sorry we're getting into this, Justin, but we have to.
But conceptually, it's
well, too is, what does it take for someone to be in charge? Yeah, I mean, like, it's sort of like what Otis is doing on their ambulance. They're going to have a person $25 to $26 an hour, 28 to 29 to be a person in charge. And they didn't know how it was totally working out because they're still working through it. Could we put a premium pay on someone to be in charge, provided they had the training? So you would say you would have an EMT, first responder EMT. There's no captain, deputy chief, or chief. We'll give you $2 an hour more, and you'll be the person in charge. Those are the kinds of things we're going to have to do to bring costs down.
I agree. I think the tricky part is making sure that the person can actually do the job.
Well, I know that, but I mean, you have to, is the
No,
glass
I'm
half
not
empty or half
disagreeing.
filled? You gotta
Right.
work on the premise about
Right.
bringing in someone that got to an EMT, and, but Chris, particularly Chris has talked about wanting a really professional department, but that is gonna be our responsibility in the town administration to find different ways to hold those costs down, or we're gonna be, in 3 years.
I mean, and one thing we could do is to have them on salary, but what happens in a lot of places where they are on salary is that you get a 40-hour work week, not a 26, 30 year.
No, I don't want to give my opinion on that.
I mean, the thing is, we're bound by the federal law.
Well, I know that, I read the laws.
But
So, going back to the original question, why we asked Roger, look, my position is Roger's done an outstanding job in the first one. He's run into bumps, he's had some issues with invoices, but when I got into invoices, I turned up having more sympathy for him than being a protest. I mean, what a clusterfuck. It's like, oh my God, it's like, oh,
the worst.
Well,
you should have had a fifth of liquor in his drawer.
All things considered, can we match the police chief?
I would do that. That's fine.
And I'm happy to try and work with you to figure out if we can get, I feel concerned about the salary level, and I don't know.
Yeah, but there's, his base salary, there's nothing wrong with it. His base salary is fine. The issue is, our issue is that we have to be creative in finding ways to chip away with that. You can't have that discrepancy. It's not good. The police chief could look at it one day. He could go get a job, shake, snap with his fingers. They would recruit him. Because I like Brian because he's about community policing.
You're not going to get me to argue.
I think he's done a fantastic. I really like Jen and Melanie. I mean, they've done a really good job.
They really are.
But they're community. What I see, like with, if something goes wrong at the pantry, it doesn't matter who else is there. Jen will call Marty, Melanie. Hey, so and so's not eating the food. What do you want me to do? Can you have your mom follow up with them? I mean, but that's what they're doing. They're engaged. She walks in. She knows who the people are. So, okay. All right.
Okay, there's a consensus. I'll update Roger.
Okay, that's all.
But I would welcome help in trying to figure out what we can do that's legal and.
Well,
I'll go grab Roger.
Look,
okay.
I call them. We need to get,
And maybe I can put it to that.
We need to have. It's just like the whole lease thing. Those are going to be tough conversations, but we have to have them. Because, you look up.
I think the problem I run into is I'm not sure, the only thing I can think of to reduce it would be to have either all of them on a flat salary, but I don't know what else to do.
No, what you have to do,
the hourly rate to compensate.
No, you don't want to do that.
So then what is it?
That's about training and developing people.
Right.
Okay. They've got a year. The training and develop. You identify people. What are the 5 things they need to do? Okay, I want $1,500 for a training. How do you do it? You have a checklist. Where's your checklist? You're going to be the person in charge.
I heard everything you said, but I'm not sure how that gets the salary down.
No, but it's down because when Sean says I'm going on vacation, we need to backfill.
Oh, what you're saying is you can get this number down by using other people.
Yeah, someone like at a $28 an hour scale, okay, you give him a premium.
Okay. No, I see your point.
And then if someone
wouldn't
leaves.
do anything for this year though.
No, but I know, but if you're developing your next management.
And actually, we have had a conversation about that. Like, can you use a person who's a regular firefighter with like a day upcharge for acting officer or whatever, if they have the skills.
Right, you gotta identify the skills.
And
Okay.
Lee apparently uses a system, this matters when you look at the top salaries. Lee has a system where they have like a base pay rate, but then they do charges for a host of things.
So that's
like,
what,
they did a- yeah.
any
additional
manufacturer-
certifications, being on duty, you know, a
Well,
part
it's
of the
sort of like
force
we
for a
do
certain amount of time.
DPW, if you're a CDL, you get more than the ballots not CDL.
I'm not arguing with it, I'm just saying it can be
Yeah, but
it can be misleading to look at that number because there's almost no one in the house that actually earns that number. Do you know what I'm saying? Right.
well, that can be a leadership problem. That can be fixed.
No, I don't
All
think
right.
so. I think they just have, if you've got all your people have CDLs, then you're not paying the no CDL rate.
Right, which is fine,
Yeah, I know.
because you have debt on
I
your
don't think,
bench.
and it's not even misleading. It's just that if you're using the base pay rate as your comparable, you're not getting an accurate picture of what they're actually paying their staff. That's my problem.
Are we about done talking?
We're almost at 3 hours here, but Roger, do you have any updates?
I can sit over here so I can. So I just had a couple concerning Officer Jennifer Brown. I've been talking to Brian and talking to Jen. She hopes to work past the age of 65. Specifically, she's hoping to work past the age of 65 for Monterey. But that's going to require us to actually put something on the warrant because they have to retire in 65.
Is she retired? Is she?
That's
Is she 65 this year?
No, she won't be turning. She'll be turning 64 this year.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to put it onto the warrant until next year.
Well, that's what I'm not certain because of her,
Okay.
where her
When
birthday
her
is.
birthday
Her
is.
birthday is in September, so we could put it on this year,
So will she turn 65 in September or 65 in September of
She'll turn-
2026?
2026.
Okay.
So I'm not certain how it works specifically with how long it takes the legislation because it has to go to the legislature.
Ooh.
So I think putting it up sooner rather than later is probably better.
So when we did Gareth, did you look back? That was all, did you find it?
I couldn't find it. I went back to the.
Did we do Gareth, Nikki?
We did do Gary.
I went. Oh,
Yeah,
we
wait,
have back to.
It happened once before.
I asked Don. I mentioned something to
I think he
Don,
retired at 65.
and I went and I kind of tried to do a search. And I didn't know when exactly it was because it goes back to like 2005 is when our
But it
warrants
wouldn't
go
have been
back
that
to. So I don't know.
long.
When it would have
It would have been since then.
Yeah.
That he, I mean.
You know what? It was, I almost want to think,
When did we, Ryan became chief 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago?
I'm confused because I feel like it wasn't during my time, but it couldn't have been before my time, but I feel like I've seen it somewhere.
Unless
Did-
he,
did
unless
you
we
get
did
him
say
for
that he
raise
was
on the
70.
fire department?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
What was
Wait,
it?
what?
He stayed on.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It was about the fire chief, not the police chief,
Oh,
not the police. I think that's where I've seen it, in the town meeting minutes.
I don't remember.
I was
being
mistaken,
there.
sorry.
that's
She's
okay.
very different.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either.
So I did reach out to council and she did put together some wording to
Okay.
be used. So I can forward that to you. There's one little thing I have to add to it, but I can
Is
forward
that the
to you.
whole article?
Yeah. Yep.
That's just one on the town meeting warrant?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if the whole article does, but at least there's a part up here and I'll have to ask for that. But there's a part up here which is in quotes, which would be in the article. The rest is the legislation. The rest is what would have to go. If you look like right here is where it starts. So it's those few sentences there. But
It's not, this is all gonna be on.
yeah, it looks like
It's
it
all
has
gonna be on, so it's a special act with 2 sections.
Except, I'm not sure that relative there too, I think in the end, the legislature may make clerical or editorial changes in form only to the bill under the select board approved minutes, that wouldn't be on the warrant. It wouldn't make sense for that to be on the warrant. I think you just.
As provided below.
That's what she
So
said.
remember when we did the recall special act and then we put the recall special act in the warrant?
Right,
That's probably what we do.
so it's probably this and then this, but not that, just for clarity. The select board is to provide those to approve amendments, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong, okay.
It's gonna be
That's
now,
all too.
if we can
And
get the
section two's on the
legislature to
page.
vote on it.
Yep.
So we should definitely be doing it sooner than later.
Yeah, we should be doing it in May.
As
Yeah,
opposed- as
I
opposed
think
to
so.
waiting
I
till
think we
November.
better put it on
Yeah.
this warrant.
Okay.
That's like,
Because
I wouldn't want
I'll-
to turn life like that.
I'll just double check with her, asking, because what section didn't you think was the legislation?
There's no end quote.
Oh, the end,
You know
there's a
what?
quote down here.
When
There
I'm
is?
supposed to have the
Oh,
warrant to
it's right
Donna
there.
this week.
Yep.
She'll see this.
Oh, that's the end, just to the word passage.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. She'll see this.
So she'll review.
But yeah, I think it should be on the warrant this year.
And the only other thing, and we can you can sign it next week if you want, is that the Sandusfield Road project, which is a culvert project.
Yes, I needed to sign that.
So I have it right here, but because it wasn't on the agenda, I don't know if you want to sign it. But it's essentially just signing, asking to extend the project for another year, because in speaking with Mark Lundstad, the engineer for totally forgot what the comprehensive engineering, we kind of got stuck for a couple months because once they had done some analysis of the area, there was some endangered species down there. It was a plant, and it required a month or so of analysis, reporting, that sort of stuff. And it kind of pushed it off. So the actual grant was ending June 30th. So we had a conversation with somebody from the state, myself, Mark Lundstead, the engineer, and the state was like, it's not a problem, just fill out this paperwork and get it signed, and we'll extend it for a year. Mark said that more than likely by the time we get everything lined up, it could probably be done this year. And so it's going to take it should take about 2 weeks to do the project.
What are they doing?
The culvert itself. They're replacing the culvert because it's
That's part of
collapsing.
their state money?
It was a grant.
Yes, it was a grant.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember, I did that Berkshire MBO in the municipality, they went over all the projects. Because they mentioned.
We got this grant probably November of 2023 initially.
So I don't know if you want to see the third page. Sorry. Yeah, so it's just asking that. And we have some invoices. We barely invoiced. We actually have barely done any work on it in the past since I've been here.
I think,
once or twice.
isn't there one other thing?
The only other thing that was on there was the paperwork for submitting invoices. That's all it was.
I thought I had my signature on that too.
Was that on there too?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was just a invoice. Let me go find that one. Because I thought that was just a document.
While he's getting that, Frank, for the police and for the town administrator and for the DPW employees, we have line items for each salary. We currently don't have that, the way their budget is currently structured. Do you think that we should have that? Or we should just leave it as compensation in the bucket?
Put legal compensation in the budget.
Eventually, it's gonna have to
Do you
be.
know where your house was? Because she left a long time ago, didn't she?
What?
Do you know where
Do you
your
remember
house
where
is?
your house is? Because you left so
Well,
early.
I just
this
have my
morning.
computer on.
Oh,
Oh.
I can tell you were like, didn't know where she was.
I get a kick out of this, the traffic
Oh, right.
reports,
Oh,
Monterey,
I
light
made it home
traffic.
for lunch and I played fetch with the dog, so he didn't rip anything up in my ass.
You what?
I got stuck in the car the other day when we were going bad traffic.
That's bad.
Well, I get a kick out of this automatic light traffic in Monterey.
Yeah, really. The
See,
whole, like,
that's what I'm
that whole
getting
section of
confused.
road with no,
Yeah.
passing zones, man. You get behind someone really slow.
You get behind some bikes
And you can't go around.
and,
I know.
you know, when you enter town, it says you have to give them 4 feet. There's not 4 feet to give them unless you're driving entirely
Totally
the other way.
the other way,
you know?
I know. The other one I
Not
like
gonna give
is
them 4 feet.
if you're coming from town
Yeah.
and it's snowing and you're behind someone that's afraid of the snow and they're like doing 20 going up Butternut Hill, and you're like, my car's gonna get stuck. We
No, I
know
only
this
go that
snow,
way
my
going
car's gonna
down
get
and
stuck.
up. Like, it's going downhills I don't like. Gotta go really
I
slow.
don't like either one, but going uphill, you can get stuck when it's like
Oh, yeah.
that bad and you're going too slow. You have to have a little momentum to get yourself.
I just remembered what
Oh,
Um,
no.
so remember how there's some ARPA projects like the historical commission that we have to transfer the money from the pickup article to the, because it was really ARPA money and the ARPA money had to be obligated. We don't know if we're gonna get the grant to build a community center pavilion,
Right.
but the request is to have money available should we get awarded the grant, which we'll know mid-May. So it's gonna be hard though if it's 50% funded and we have this, so when it's already 60 to 70 to 80% funded, we need that final 20% is basically where we're gonna be at if we get the grant, which we don't know if we're gonna get the grant. I do have one idea that's not really a great idea, but
Just to go do the damn thing ourselves.
we have unrestricted funds that we got from those CDBG loans that can be spent on absolutely anything. And they're kind of like a gift from, they're kind of like manna from heaven.
How much money is it?
Oh, we have to go back. and look.
Unrestricted, it's
like-
90,000
It's
total.
like 25,000 or something like
It's
that.
90,000 total, and I think 2/3 are unrestricted and 1/3 is restricted.
Something like that.
So it's probably about 60,000 unrestricted.
I have to go back and look. So.
But God wants you to spend it, but.
So it's,
No, wow.
I've also kept in mind that those might be available for housing type things. The restricted funds, which are, I believe, about $30,000, actually 35, will be available for housing no matter what. So if we have to pay a housing consultant, those will. Maybe it pairs up this project that we've put years of stuff into and is now so close to being fully funded, and we need to cross that finish line in a very tight budget year. And this random funds that we didn't deserve, we didn't put anything down to get, and it kind of meshes them up. And maybe that's not a good way to spend those monies, but I'm just putting that all out.
Which project was this for?
The pavilion.
The
Oh, the
pavilion.
pavilion.
We need about $50,000. I need to double check with Dennis on that, but we have the lighting funds, the 29,000 that we've hung on to year after year.
Is that
Even when
on
I
the warrant?
No.
Didn't we
We've
have to
had
move
it on the
from one
warrant.
thing to another?
So
Didn't we have it on
we've
the warrant?
never moved it. So year after year, I said, let's get rid of this lighting money. We haven't. So we have 29,000 lighting money. We have probably somewhere about 40,000 of ARPA funds that went to pay the pickup truck that are for the community center.
Right.
And then this is a 50% match grant. So you take all those things and we're gonna be like, yeah, it's way too much money for a pavilion. And also, what are we gonna do? Get the grant and say, no, we don't have the final $50,000, so we'll scrap the whole project and return all those other funds to where they came from?
Irene will tell me the reason.
Anyway, I'm just putting that on your radar. We don't need to make a decision tonight.
But it's a good suggestion. I agree with you. Really.
I mean, I
It
hate
get
it.
it, get
It
it.
kills me to pay that much for a freaking pavilion. 70 years of the 10.
Yeah, but I mean, it just
I
shows
know.
you the rules of government sometimes
Are ridiculous.
they're not
They're
common sense, they're stupid.
I mean,
All
they-
the way, it's like,
And then they want us to sign up for the CPA and do more government rules.
I
It's so
mean,
frustrating.
sometimes
It's
it's
like
wonderful.
with bridges, it's absolute.
I can't believe, I wrote the numbers down today on the meeting, $5.1 million to build a bridge over.
On Curtis Road.
Shit, I'm
And
like,
50 million for the one in the south of Barrington. $50 million for that bridge.
And this is
That
my
goes by eyesight.
this is my official resignation from the renewable energy work.
You said resignation. I'm like, wait, what?
hey, take that raise away.
$50 million for that bridge.
Yeah, but
It's unbelievable. And yeah, I'm sorry, there's no way the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't have a bridge that for $500,000 you can freaking carry it and drop in there.
That actually came up in that meeting that I went to
Ridiculous.
with the governor a
Yeah.
week ago because Mike Canales was there also, and he brought it up there too. That was something.
He should, because it's absurd.
And I, like,
Which is-
where I spent
Well,
years working for environmental organizations and I still think it's absurd.
But where's all the money going?
You spent, so maybe you'd be a good candidate for the Concom.
Hard pass. Maybe
down-
after I retire from select board.
They're down a couple people, and I did hear that
Don't
Mike-
look at me.
Mike,
Don't
Mike,
look
has,
at me.
Mike has resigned.
Uh-oh.
Well, he didn't resign.
His point was that's what it is. So he didn't
For that Concom. Just keep changing the hats till it drops
We'll
out.
give you an office.
Can we hire a full-time volunteer for the job?
Full-time volunteer.
You know, if she did,
You know, you pay you
if you do the
$50,000.
COMCOM and you do the zoning board and you do the select board, what else do you do? That probably works out to about $1.15 an hour.
That much?
That's on a good week.
There was it. All right, we can't do any minutes.
No, I'm done. We're pretty caught up, except for the 3 10-minutes if someone hasn't finished writing. Speaking of which, giving attribution, I said that I would do the minutes for today's working meeting.
Okay.
They're
You
not
want
done
me-
yet,
I
since it was
recorded-
today,
you want-
I've been in meetings the entire day.
Meeting adjourned at 7:55 PM.
You sure you don't want to make it stay to 8 and make it 3
Oh
hours?
my god.
Now, wait a second, Chris, you didn't start until 5:09.
Yeah, that's
In
right.
good news, there was a